Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here, welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, Episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch. Thank you so much for coming and joining me on stream. In the last Umineko stream, Ava solved the epitaph and discovered Kinzo's gold, thereby inheriting the title of the Golden Witch and successor to the Ushiyumiya family. In the meta world, a younger version of Ava, who's basically like a personification of her ambition to inherit the family, became the next Beatrice, becoming Ava Beatrice. And then, in order to carry out the second Twilight, she found Rosa and Maria in the Rose Garden, and proceeded to toy with their lives using her newfound magic. Now Beatrice, the original Beatrice, or our Beatrice I guess, found it amusing. Badler did not find it amusing at all, and got very upset because Ava Beatrice kept killing and reviving Rosa and Maria over and over again. So Badler kind of stormed off, and then Beatrice kind of meekly asked Ava Beatrice to not play with her victims quite as much. So, and we're back here, and this whole time, like, the real Ava, the one that we know, has supposedly been sleeping in her room, sick with a fever, as Hideyoshi takes care of her. So, I guess we'll figure out what happens from here on. Things are going to get a little bit exciting. Hey, Comfy Dreams and Hakaze, thank you so much for coming to the stream. I really appreciate it. Hello. Well, I'm glad you've been looking forward to more Umineko. I enjoy doing these streams, but of course they are a bit tiring to do, but like, I really enjoy this series a lot, and the story is really good, so it's nice to share it with other people. Okay, let's get going. Ooh. Looks like she's finally calmed down. Hideyoshi wiped his own forehead. For a time, Ava had seemed to be having a very painful nightmare, but it appeared she'd finally fallen asleep. As promised, he still gripped Ava's hand. He thought it might be time to let go pretty soon, but he faithfully continued to hold on. Every once in a while, his hand would get tired, and he would switch between his right and his left. But even so, as promised, he didn't let go of her hand. At that time, there was a heavy knock. Ava had finally been able to fall asleep, so Hideyoshi grimaced for just an instant. Aniki, Hideyoshi-san, sorry. Is Rosa there? It was Rudolph's voice. What could it be? Hideyoshi headed for the door, hiding his footsteps so that he wouldn't wake Ava. It was definitely Rudolph's voice, but just in case, he opened the door without removing the chain. What is it? Something happened to Rosa-san? We can't find Rosa or Maria-chan. I thought they might be with you. I heard her scolding Maria-chan in the corridor. They got quiet after that, so I thought they'd gone back to the lobby, but... did they? That idiot. Rudolph clicked his tongue. Other people could be seen in the corridor. Look at Kraus with his tiny little gun. Rosa hadn't returned for a while after going out into the corridor, so they'd begun to worry. Near the front door, Natsui pointed at the unset chain. The chain isn't set. They must have gone outside to see that rose after all. How extraordinarily careless to go out and leave the door unlocked. What a troublesome person. I'm more worried about Rosa-san and Maria-chan themselves. Right. Hey, brats. Where was this rose of Maria's? I'm pretty sure it was in the flower bed right in the middle of the rose garden. If that's where they are, we should be able to spot them pretty quickly if we go. Dad, shouldn't we bring them back here as soon as we can? Of course. We'll bring them back and give them a good spanking. I'll dash out there and come back. Lock the door as soon as I go out. Dad, I'll go with you. Don't be stupid. It's obviously a brat's job to watch over the house with Mama. What is it? Did something happen? Sorry, did I wake you up? It seems Rosa-san took Maria-chan outside. How reckless of her. Rosa and Maria-chan are... outside? In the rose garden? That's right. Oh, did you hear? Maria-chan was causing a ruckus because she wanted to see this rose. They mustn't. They mustn't go to the Rose Garden. Tell Rosa to stop. There's no telling her to stop now. It looks like they left a while ago. Seriously, how reckless of them. That's not it. Not the Rose Garden. There's a witch there. And she's waiting for a sacrifice. Rosa, you mustn't go. Oh. Ava cowered again, holding her head. Her complexion looked very bad. What is it? Did the fever make you dream something bad? It's a dream. Yes. In the Rose Garden, the witch. Doing that to Rosa and Maria-chan. That's right. It's a dream. It must be. Calm down. I'm here in this room. And the chain is set. The shutters closed on the window. We've even got a gun. This room is just like a fort. There's nothing to be afraid of. Hideyoshi beat his chest trying to calm her, but Ava's insecure expression didn't change. Under the covers, Ava kept praying that the grotesque nightmare she just had was only a dream. In the center of the Rose Garden, Rudolph identified the corpses of Rosa and Maria. After that, he returned to the guest house, called for help, and carried both of them into the guest house. If we can trust Nanjo's examination, the cause of Rosa's death was a stab to the medulla oblongata with the pointed gate of the fence. It is thought that Maria's death was due to strangling with bare hands. However, due to the devil's proof, we cannot discount a misdiagnosis. Yeah, I kind of like when they summarize what happened. It's a bit anticlimactic instead of playing it out though, but because this episode's so long, I think that's why they decide to narrate a lot of these parts, like the reality side of a lot of the happenings. I will say it in red. Rosa and Maria died. The causes of death were as Nanjo diagnosed. She wasn't eaten by a spider, nor was she crushed by a mountain of cake. Don't worry. So you argue that even though you toyed with their death so much, it's all fine because the corpse is neat and clean. I definitely won't forgive you. I definitely won't forget all that brutal treatment you gave Aunt Rosa, so I won't forgive you. Like I said, that wasn't me. I believe I gave them a much more peaceful death than the way that she treated them. Shut the hell up. I'm not talking to you. It was stated that there are no more than 18 people on this island, and now that 8 people are already dead, we can narrow the field of suspects down to 10. One of them probably killed those 2. Or could it also be an accidental death? Like, Maria was having a tantrum, and when Aunt Rosa tried to stop her crying, she misjudged how much power she was using, and accidentally killed her. Then she was so upset that she slipped and fell, landed on the fence, and unluckily died. How's that? That way there's no need for a witch or magic. Well, that's not quite true. Actually, Rosa and Maria... Shut up. Didn't I say I wasn't talking to you? You're an eyesore, so disappear. You monster. Adler said that without rage, but with a horribly cold voice. That strange behavior was something Bito had noticed right off the bat. In a fight, both of them could go at each other without restraint. However, he wouldn't even step into the ring. She could feel that coldness. Bito didn't find that amusing. She thought about flaring up, but she held back. Maybe even though she was innocent and childish, she had enough sense to realize she shouldn't pick fights. Is that so? Then I'll vanish. Ronov, continue for me. Certainly. Will that be satisfactory, Battler-sama? There are no problems with her proposal. If Battler-kun doesn't want to see Bito's face, perhaps that will do. Do what you like. If I can live without seeing that monstrous face, I don't care about anything else. Okay, wait a second. You keep saying monster, monster, but isn't that a cruel way to speak of me? Why do you instinctively hate me so much, Battler? Even though none of that was me, even though it was all the work of my disciple. It's not like I'm only mad about what happened just now. It's been like that from the very beginning. Hey, Battler. Don't misunderstand, okay? Aren't we just a pair of players confronting each other through a game? We look for moves to make things painful for each other, but... Don't get the wrong idea. I don't hate you because you're my rival in this strange game about whether I accept you as a witch or not. I just can't forgive how senselessly cruel you are. Well, serial murders are part of the game. It's probably impossible to avoid a little cruelty. I'm not just talking about what just happened. There was the last time, and the time before that too. Tearing everyone's stomachs open and stuffing them with sweets, ploughing their faces. What was the point of all that? That's... well... when it comes to closed room murders and tricks and alibis, I'm willing to give you a pass. You want to claim that this is a murder done by magic, so I'll grudgingly accept that those complicated crimes need to occur. What exactly is the point of all those grotesque murders? Well, nothing much. That's right. They don't mean anything. You're just fooling around by mangling the corpses for fun. That has nothing to do with whether you're a witch, or whether it could or couldn't be done with magic. You're just exploring the depths of cruelty for fun. This isn't about whether you're a witch or anything like that. There are just some things I can't forgive as a human. What do you mean as a human? For example, the 6 people of the first Twilight for this game. Well, other than Grandfather being burned black, the other corpses were killed in a normal way, without any unnecessary shaming of the dead. It wasn't clear whether the weapon was a spear or a gun, but anyway, as far as killing goes, that was acceptable. It was much better than the nonsensical grotesqueness and cruelty from the first Twilight last time, or the time before that. And this time there were 6 closed rooms tied together to make a closed room chain. That was sort of interesting. When we were going back and forth with each other that time, to be perfectly honest, I thought it was just a little fun. You were frantic to make me accept your existence, and I was frantic trying to deny it. We were both frantically doing all we could. This may sound weird, but I felt a faint sense of sportsmanship between the two of us. We exist in conflict, but I faintly thought that we might not be completely unable to understand each other's existence. Just now, that feeling was blown away without a trace. That's what you're misunderstanding. That wasn't me. That's not it. That's not what I'm talking about. You watched Aunt Rosa being killed horribly, over and over, and you sneered at it like it was some interesting show. When I saw that, I was deeply disappointed in you. When I realized that your decision to kill them in a slightly better way this time was nothing more than a faint whim, and that nothing had changed in your cruel character, I was deeply disappointed. On the contrary, you were even genuinely enjoying those brutal deaths. You weren't just acting as cruel as you could to bully me. You truly, genuinely enjoy cruelty. Your character lets you enjoy it. You said I'd probably think Aunt Rosa being brutally killed over and over was fun. You weren't joking. You enjoyed it from the bottom of your heart, wanted me to sympathize, and said I'd probably think it was fun. In that instant, I lost respect for you and realized the truth. The problem isn't whether you're a witch or not. I will not forgive that cruelty of yours, and I can't understand it. I can't forgive it either. Still, I'll continue this game of whether I accept or deny witches. I won't step down and accept my own defeat. However, your pointless cruelty is absolutely unnecessary for that game, so I've decided I won't accept you as my opponent. Ronov is 100 times better. He doesn't have the same cruelty hobby you do. Even if he does, he doesn't have the awful taste to show it off in front of me. That's right. You have awful taste. You're heartless and cruel, so you can't understand. That's unpleasant in any opponent, so I don't want to see your face again. As Battler went on and on by himself, Bito was shocked into silence for a long time. Maybe she couldn't understand what she was being told, and this was a sign she was doing all she could in an effort to understand. For a while, she kept switching between angry expressions, frustrated expressions, bold expressions, as though she herself didn't know what attitude she should take. In the end, she made her face into a candid expression, as though she had come to her senses, and shrugged her shoulders as though she was tired. In that case, do what you like. From now on, I will continue this game through Ronov. You have no complaints as long as I don't show myself, right? For the time being, I definitely won't forgive all your cruel actions up until now, and I definitely won't accept you. For that reason as well, I won't back down from this fight you've picked. And I definitely won't lose. That's all there is to it. Ito, no matter how many more excuses you give, his impression will not waver. I have something to talk about later. Until then, stay back. Indeed. Understood. Then I'll vanish until you call. Looking lonely, Beetle turned her back to them and vanished. Adler watched, a slightly displeased expression on his face. He thought his argument had been valid, but for some reason his mood didn't clear up. She's an idiot. That's true. An idiot, and a straightforward one. That idiot watched Aunt Rosa get killed horribly with me, and then turned around with a huge smile on her face. She really believed that she could laugh at me at that cruel show. She really believed I could sympathize with that emotion. Looking at that innocent smile, I felt just horrible. It would have been much better if she said it with her normal bullying face. Damn it. Milady has never had the experience of having a friend. In addition, she's probably never had something spoken to her that strongly. Madam and I are her tenants. No matter what we say, it will not reach her ears. For Milady, this is also... Don't screw with me. I don't remember ever becoming her friend. That's true enough. My apologies. There is one thing I would like to thank you for. Thank you for not backing down from that child's game. She spoke words of gratitude, but for some reason Badler made a displeased face. Then, as though in self-derision, he chuckled. Now that I've even got witches and demons thanking me, I'm screwed. Let's resume the game. Of course, I don't intend to go easy on you. I wouldn't have it any other way. Unlike Milady, I do not get agitated. I've already made my move. If we suppose that Aunt Rosa is the culprit and died in an accident, I can deny the witch. I don't want to suspect Aunt Rosa, but I think I can bear to accept that premise if it'll beat the hell out of Bito. I will deny it with red. Rosa's and Maria's deaths were homicides. Okay, let's start from there. Damn, I'm just not getting fired up. With Rosa's and Maria's deaths, it was now clear that the culprit was still hiding somewhere, trying to add even more murders to the chain. As he shed tears, Rudolph scolded Rosa's corpse for being careless and reckless several times, but Rosa would never respond to that again. They decided to place the two corpses in one of the guest rooms, and to seal it until the police arrived. The second murder... No, the murder of the second Twilight had delivered a heavy blow to everyone. It had blown away the optimism that some of them had had. The thought that a crime didn't actually occur, and it was all a game or a farce by Kinzo and his servants. Trying to distract themselves from the loss of the people they liked, George and Jessica had spent the whole time since morning talking about every possibility. And they had distracted their hearts by supposing that these murders might actually have been an act, and that Shannon and Cannon were only pretending to be dead. When the next murder occurred, it destroyed that thought, and they were once again struck by the fact that the person they liked had most definitely been killed. The tears that they thought had died away began to drip down once more, and Badler couldn't think of anything to say to them. After that, all the adults checked that all the rooms were safe and locked just in case. They made certain that the shutters on all the windows were down and locked, and they confirmed that no one suspicious was hiding anywhere. On top of that, they checked their weapons once again, and checked with each other to make sure they were mentally prepared, so they wouldn't hesitate to fire off a preemptive shot if they saw the shadow of a mysterious person. Rosa's gun had been found near the scene of the crime. Someone had gone out of their way to leave it there, so everyone suspected that it was some kind of trap. But when Hideyoshi delicately used a fire iron to fire off test shots, it was able to discharge without incident. Hey, calm down there, Hideyoshi. So, since the 5 shots loaded into it had discharged without any problems, they reloaded it with bullets and handed it over to the only adult male who wasn't armed, Hideyoshi. However, the fact that it had been able to fire off 5 shots gave rise to a certain paranoia. This short barrel Winchester could only hold 5 shots. In other words, Rosa hadn't fired even once. And yet the 2 had probably been killed by someone with their bare hands. This meant there was a possibility that the crime had been committed by someone whose face they knew. When the first murder occurred, I privately thought of the possibility it was all an act. My apologies to Dr. Nanjo, but if he had actually been an accomplice, I thought the deaths of all the servants might possibly have been a massive, elaborate act by Father. After all, the closed room situation they were in couldn't have been created unless we supposed that it was all an act. We also suspected that. No, I still want to believe that that's the case. My apologies, but that is not so. I am quite old. I might possibly make a misdiagnosis. However, I would never mistake whether they were alive or dead. I get it. Don't go out of your way to say it out loud, Dr. Nanjo. My apologies. They had no way of knowing. Bito had already used the red to proclaim the deaths of the 6. No, the deaths of all victims so far in this game. That faint dream that it was all a farce, that the victims were actually alive, I'm sorry to say it, but that's impossible. In that case, it makes more sense to assume it's someone familiar at the mansion, someone hiding around and carrying out a really well-polished crime. So ever since the typhoon came to this island and sealed it off from the outside world, there's been more than 18 people here. Of course, there was no way for them to know about that either. That claim of Rudolph's has also been denied in red. There are no more than 18 humans on this island. I might have a way to look at it that keeps things consistent, at least a little. Simply put, this person is hiding as someone who shouldn't really be on this island right now. And yet, there's a likelihood that they were someone Rosa-san knew, someone she let her guard down around. So, for example, could it be a servant who wasn't on this 2-day shift? It's hard to be certain about that one. When our servants finish their work and leave the island, it isn't as though we punch their ticket or something to make sure. If we're supposing that a servant on a shift from a few days ago only pretended to leave the island and actually stayed here, that would be hard to deny. I don't think Rosa-san is such a fool. If a servant who wasn't supposed to be here popped up in front of you, who wouldn't be on their guards? I'm not even sure we should be assuming it was someone she recognized. Maybe they suddenly attacked Rosa from the darkness, and were about to steal her gun. Then Rosa fell, hit her head against the fence, and stopped moving. The guest house was nearby and they wanted to avoid the sound of gunfire, so they killed Maria-chan with their bare hands. There's also that possibility. Still, even if that is the case, would they really intentionally leave Rosa's gun at the scene of the crime? We don't know what the culprit's armed with, but they've got to feel insecure about our guns. Wasn't that a perfect chance for them to thin out our supply? Why would they intentionally leave it at the scene of the crime? At first I thought the gun was a trap. That's what chessboard thinking says it should be. But purposely leaving it there, they wanted to make one of us touch it. And they must have wanted to make us pull the trigger. I was sure that something dangerous had been done to it, to make it explode and cause massive injuries. But it was actually okay. The culprit probably panicked. I'll bet that right now they're regretting they missed their chance to steal a gun. I don't like it. It ticks me off, like it's a message from the witch, saying she isn't even scared of guns. However, in any event, this is truly a fearsome opponent. Even at a glance, they should have been able to tell that Rosa had a gun. To think they attacked her despite that, the fact that they are unafraid of guns should not be taken lightly. Indeed. It's as Natsui says, we should probably be even more cautious than we have been. This is just for peace of mind, but at the time we think Rosa-san was attacked outside. Where was everyone? Natsui and I were here, along with Rudolph and Kirie-san. I can guarantee their alibis. Ava and I were together. I can guarantee that. George Aniki, Jessica and I were together. When Aunt Rosa yelled at us to return to the second floor, we retraced our steps back to the cousin's room, all dejected. Back then, if we hadn't let Maria go, saying that isn't going to change anything. Dr. Nanjo? I was reading a book in a room on the second floor. I was by myself so no one can verify my alibi, but I believe everyone saw me return to the second floor with the children. Once I say this, it'll never end. But what if you jumped out the window, attacked Rosa, and then climbed back up using a rain gutter or something? Don't be absurd. How could I perform such a feat, such as jumping down to the second story or climbing up with this old body? Let us stop suspecting each other. It's more important that we trust each other, and for the children's sake as well, defend this place until the very end. Hey Lark, welcome to the stream. Thanks so much for stopping by. Hello. Hope you're doing well. You're right. It's like Natsui-san says. For now, let's stop suspecting each other. That's right. We may be useless as far as searching for the culprit is concerned. We can only stay alive until tomorrow, inform the police and follow their instructions. Because the police will definitely expose who the culprit is. Yeah, they discovered Rosa and Maria's bodies in the garden. What is it, Ava? Is your body still feeling bad? Mother, what's wrong? Are you okay? Sorry. It looks like my fever's still strong. I'll be fine, so leave me alone. When they looked, they saw Ava staring at the floor, her breathing harsh again. She had been able to act firm for a time due to the urgency of the situation, but it seemed her body wasn't at its best after all. Yeah, I killed those two. Now we're the only ones who know about the gold. I won't give up even a scrap to the other siblings. What have you done? There was so much of the gold, right? Giving Rose and the others their share wouldn't have been a problem at all, right? It would. That gold is to be passed on only to the head of the Ushimiya family. That's because of it as a whole represents no more or less the honor of the head. To wound that even a tiny bit, it's definitely not something that I, the new Golden Witch Beatrice, will permit. Do you plan to continue these murders according to the witch's epitaph? Do you actually plan to become a murderer 5 more times? Yeah. If I don't finish that annoying ceremony, it seems my power as a witch won't become complete. Hey, me. The power of the witch is really awesome. It really can make all these crazy things we imagine become reality. The power to make dreams more than just dreams. Now that I've learned of this power, I can no longer stop being a witch. If I can finish the ceremony and make my power complete, I'm sure I'll be able to teach you that feeling too. Stop acting like a fool. Haven't you played at being a witch enough? We found the gold, and we've even been promised the position of the successor. We'll probably need to tightrope walk just a bit, but by now, that's a dream that will definitely come true. Beyond that, what more could you wish for? I wanted to become a witch. I don't give a damn about that dream. That's right. Because I kept holding on to that dream, I've lived at this age forever. When you became an adult, you threw that dream away. No matter how long you wait, the rabbit holding a clock won't visit you, and you won't be able to meet Humpty Dumpty. Of course, you definitely won't be invited to the land of cards. Because you gave up and accepted all that, you became an adult. So you don't want to become a witch or anything like that anymore. You've even forgotten that it was truly your own dream at one point. Anyway, stop it. I've already gotten my hands on 2 dreams. The gold and the position of the head. That's more than enough. So please, your dream has nothing to do with me. Stand down. No way. Magic's too interesting. Also, those 2 dreams of yours both came true because of my magic. It wouldn't be fair if my dream didn't come true too. I'm grateful for your magic, and I acknowledge that you're a real witch. So just stand down and return to the inside of my heart. And never appear again. No way. We're both misunderstanding each other, aren't we? That's right, I'm not you anymore. You are Ushimiya Ava. I am the Golden Witch Beatrice. So it's not my responsibility to go back inside your heart. I guess I feel like a butterfly who's broken out of her cocoon. meaning you. Fever. It's making my mind cloudy. My inexperience with magical powers forcing me to support it with your vitality. Until I finish the ceremony and become a full witch, you might have to bear the burden. I'll take that as payment for making 2 of your dreams come true. It's fine, don't worry, okay? For the remaining 5 sacrifices, I'll avoid your family. Let's see. Rudolph, Kyrie, Kraus, Natsui. After that, what about that old geezer Nanjo? Perfect, I'll kill those 5 people. Could you call this a murder announcement revealed only to you? Do the 2 Avas have different eye colors? I think they have the same eye color, but they might be slightly different shades. I think I read that in the... possibly the anime, they gave them different eye colors, or either that or their eye colors are different from the visual novel. There's some indiscrepancy somewhere. Or some discrepancy somewhere, I can't remember. Ava finally crouched down. Hideyoshi rushed up to her and lent her his shoulder. Are you okay? Let's take it easy and rest. Are you alright? Dr. Nanjo, take a look at Ava. When Nanjo and George tried to approach, Ava made a gesture to stop them. Thank you. I'm fine, Dr. Nanjo. I'm taking medicine. I apologize for saying this during such an extreme situation, but let me rest a little longer. Mom, I'll lend a hand too. Thank you, but I'll be fine as long as your father watches over me. Go back to the 2nd story cousin's room and don't come out no matter what. Understood? No matter what happens, you must not leave the guest house. Outside. That witch will... Ugh. Don't talk anymore. Sorry everyone, but I'll be watching over Ava in our room. Tell us if something happens. Hideyoshi and Ava retreated from the lobby. However, Ava wasn't the only one who wasn't feeling good. They hadn't gotten a wink of sleep since the previous night, and had been pressed by tension since that morning. They were mustering their energy to protect their families, but if they relaxed even a little, surely everyone would be down and out. Everything has gone as planned until now. From here on out, it will be difficult, you see. Difficult, meaning? Indeed. Normally, as the ceremony progresses and the victims increase in number, they begin to tighten their guard, and in most cases they hole up in one place and stop moving. That is extremely inconvenient for us. Are you saying that we witches are inferior to a bunch of humans in a group? Witches are never inferior to humans. However, perhaps you could say the times change, and the humans have gotten their hands on a poison. This wasn't a problem long ago when people believed in witches, but just like that annoyance battler, people in the current era deny magic on a fundamental level. In other words, their existence itself is anti-magical. As a result, at some point, they grew to possess a toxin inside their bodies that denies magic. In other words, you're saying that the more humans there are, the stronger that magic-resisting toxin gets, and the greater the disadvantages for us witches. The combined amount of power in their hearts that denies magic, in other words, their magic resistance power becomes the denominator in the equation of your magic's power. Understand? Is that a bit too difficult for you? You're joking. Actually, I understand it easily. In other words, you're saying that the more people there are who don't believe in magic, and the stronger their will is, the more the effects of our magic are divided. Yeah, if it's so formulaic, I'll have to rethink my method of attack. Fundamentally, magic possesses a vast power. It can even make a rain of fire fall from the heavens or divide a sea, and reviving a lost life isn't impossible either. However, that power is extremely weak against the toxin that rejects it, and that toxin started piling up in humans since the time they forgot to respect things sacred, until finally this earth was covered with enough toxin that the miracles of magic could not be displayed. Thus, witches from across the world were chased from their dwellings. They had been forced to choose to throw away their magic and live as humans, or else live in hiding in remote areas where the toxin of humans didn't reach. In that sense, Rokenjima, with its population of only a few dozen humans, was extremely favorable for witches. And even more favorable was the existence of the ghost story about the witch who lived in the Rokenjima forest. In other words, by permeating the island with the fear that a witch might exist, the magic-resisting toxin for the humans was weakened. A small population and room for them to acknowledge magical beings. In other words, minds that were only weakly anti-magical. Only by existing in the valley where those two converged could a witch live in modern times. I see. So using this formula, we can arrive at several rules for how a witch can use her power efficiently. The first is presentation. Create a murder scene that couldn't conceivably be done by humans. Decorate it in an occult way. Make it look very much like a witch exists, and permeate people with fear to make them believe that witches exist. As a result, the anti-magic power and the denominator for our magical power will be decreased. I see. So this is why the creepy magic circles of the first highlight were created. That's right, exactly. The gaudy scenes for the first Twilight in each game are all for that reason. It's definitely not as though I like being cruel, or am I doing it for fun? In that case, Predecessor-sama, you failed this time around. You killed them in a very plain way. It doesn't look like anything more than a simple mystery. I heard about last time, and the time before that from Ronov. You should have damaged the corpses more grotesquely, like you did then, make it look more like fantasy, and instilling fear in those people. Well, about that, I thought it wouldn't be artful to do it that every time, you see. Don't think too deeply on it, it's just a whim. Actually, it really had been her whim. After what Battler had said to her, she couldn't say it out loud anymore, but she really had decided her methods of killing based on mere whims. No, would it be better to say that she had been half-heartedly let Ronov decide? After all, she left the closed rooms of this game's first Twilight to him. But if she had a cruel idea, then she would surely have explored the limits of atrocity even worse than in the previous game. Yeah, the story is really interesting. The lore behind this game is really fascinating. The way they build up how magic works and like the way they build it into how it can still conceivably get by in this reality is really fascinating. If witches' magic is partially based on risk of failure, could an argument be made that disbelief in magic make their magic stronger? I think that's like, I think inherently, I think the risk of having that is what makes it stronger. So like the risk of how like possible that people could come across it factors into how powerful it is, but at the end of the day, they still need to convince people otherwise. At least I think so. Now that you mention it, I think Ava Beatrice's eyes are more blue, and Ava's eyes are definitely more like a purplish hue. I can't tell if it's just because of the screen, like putting the black overlay on top of them, or if they actually are different. I guess Ava Beatrice's eyes are kind of similar to Beatrice's eyes, so maybe that represents that. I can't remember what Ava Beatrice looks like before she becomes a witch. Maybe her eyes are closer to Ava's color then. I can't remember. You told me to show some restraint when deciding Rose's and Maria's deaths too, but that wasn't a course of action beneficial to us witches either, was it? In actuality, by now none of them believe one bit that a witch actually exists. They're totally sure it's a mystery, not a fantasy. This turn of events is a failure from a witch perspective. For some reason, you keep doing things in a kind of lukewarm way, Predecessor-sama. Like they say, things you learn when you're young will definitely help you out in the future. This is a test passed on from my predecessor to you. Take it on with respect. Ito tried to laugh heartily, but it was obviously the fake laugh of someone trying to cover something up. And the new witch shrugged with a sigh. At this stage, it's probably too late to create a scene and reduce the anti-magic power. In that case, there's another move. Getting the humans to split up should work. Indeed, that is probably the most effective way. The smaller the number of humans, the more the denominator shrinks. As a result, the magical power functions instantaneously. In other words, it all begins to form one point. How to destroy this barricade situation and have them split up into small groups. Hey, B. Chris, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by, hello. However, they are already very cautious. The barricade won't be destroyed easily, right? Both the barricade in Kinzo's study 2 games ago and the barricade in the parlor last time were very stubborn. Furthermore, most of the cunning adults still remain this time. The situation is more difficult than the ones before it, understand? If you wish, I could give you some special advice. In a closed circle, when the first murder case occurs, the survivors always hole up, gathering together to observe each other and ensure their safety. Funnily enough, not only do mystery authors and murder culprits worry about how to break that situation apart, but so do witches. who supposedly exists at the other end of the spectrum. For a while, the new witch poked her cheek with her pointer finger, and after acting as though she was planning something, she spoke. No, I'm fine. After all, it is a test. I won't borrow your moves. Really? Still, it would be rather difficult to defeat this barricade, right? I've already made my move. I'm pretty sure it'll work. And it'll definitely work on someone smart. Is that so? You really are excellent. I'm pleased to see that my disciple won't be causing me much trouble. My motto is to study things myself before asking other people. Then if you would excuse me, I have to wait for my prey to get lured out. Indeed. Well then, handle it with care. As the new witch lowered her head, her face blank, she turned into gold butterflies and vanished. Vito didn't look happy at all. She seemed to be lonely because of how little she was being relied on. Not one of them gives a fig for me. You witch apprentice acting so smart. I'll bet she makes some painful mistake and starts crying. Then without a doubt she'll finally realize my greatness and beg me to teach her. Until then I shall watch from on high. She laughed loudly on the outside, and a laugh no one can hear is completely pointless. Vito gave up and quickly stopped laughing. Rodolph chose that time to show himself. You really like how they're dealing with Beatrice so far in this episode? Yeah, it's really fascinating. I really like this episode. It shows a lot of development on Beatrice. It introduces a lot of interesting new characters, and there's also a couple really good plot twists in this one, so I'm really excited to get there. Excuse me, milady. The game of the second Twilight with Battler-sama has ended. I see. Good work. What was the result? My sincere apologies. I was forced to resign. By saying in red that both deaths were homicides, I made Battler-sama revise his claim of Rosa strangled Maria to death, then died in an accident. But I could not repel his chain of moves, placing Ava as the principal offender. Wasn't Ava sleeping in her room the whole time as Hideyoshi cared for her? He put forth the possibility that Hideyoshi was an accomplice, and the two of them worked together to create an alibi. He even suspected Hideyoshi. Couldn't she have struck back by saying in red that he was in the guest room at the time of the murder? I also thought of that, but multiple important pieces might have been taken several moves later. And because this move might be connected to the new Beatrice-sama strategy, I acted out of respect to her. My apologies. Strategy, you say? Her mind does seem to be sharp. We can let her do as she pleases. It'll be quite a show to see how far she can go. I thought you would say that. I see that the uncuteness of your disciple has left you in a bad mood. That's none of your business. I wonder how that one plans to destroy this barricade going forward. I shall keep a close eye on her. Oh, and how was Badler's mood? It appeared as though he had calmed himself down. He did say he couldn't get fired up after all without you as his opponent. Really? Well, that's no surprise at all. If I don't return for the fourth Twilight and after, Badler would probably be lonely himself. And with that, if you would excuse me, I need to go bake some delicious cookies. I must at least enliven the discussion between you and Badler-sama, milady. Indeed! That guy really was munching your cookies, wasn't he? It's no surprise that a boy can eat so much. Make a lot of them. Certainly. I shall make enough cookies to bury the table. That sounds great. Like the relationship between I combined their names together and said Beetler. The relationship between Beatrice and Badler is really interesting. It's like weird, it doesn't make sense, but at the same time it makes sense. I don't know. How many episodes are there? There are 8 episodes in total. The first 4 episodes are called the Questions arc, because they pose most of the mysteries and questions. The second set, episodes 5 to 8, are considered the Answers arc, where they start to answer some of the mysteries. Things take a major turn after the 4th episode. What's going on? What did you want to talk about? Kyrie called Rudolph out into the corridor. It was obvious that she wanted to talk about something that she didn't want the others to hear. Yeah? I want to go outside. Certainly, the body cannot last with nothing more than a small breakfast, but... Of course, we understand. Still, as time passes, it'll get darker and darker out. It's probably at its brightest now. It's the most convenient time. Only about an hour has passed since Rosa-san was attacked. This is simply too reckless. It is only natural that Natsu is yelling about recklessness. After all, Rudolph has said he was going to the mansion to get food. Yeah, we're only 3 episodes in, there's a long way to go. And, like, furthermore, the anime, if you watch the anime for this series, only covers the visual novels episodes 1 to 4. So the anime never touches episodes 5 to 8. So if you watch the anime, you get left on a cliffhanger and you never get the answers. If you read the manga has completed all 8 episodes though, but it's also very long. But shorter than the visual novel. Certainly on top of their fatigue, their hunger was tormenting them. In the beginning, a mild level of hunger had been just what they needed to fight off drowsiness. However, it now just made their minds hazy since it was only midday, and their bodies felt like they were reaching their limits. The thought of going to the kitchen in the mansion and bringing back some food certainly was attractive. I'm opposed to this. It may be a bit rough, but we definitely shouldn't leave this place. Don't worry about us, but it would pain my heart to keep the children hungry. I must be responsible as a parent. Dear, now that father is dead, you are the Ushimiya family head. It is not permissible for you to take on such danger. You're right. It's like Natsui-san says. Kraus-san, you should remain here as our leader. Then who will go to the mansion? I think it should be Kirie and me, and Hideyoshi-san too. Hideyoshi-san and I have guns. They shouldn't be able to lay a hand on us that easily. Rosa-san also had a gun, but she was attacked. Won't it be dangerous? When I went out to check on Rosa and Maria-chan, I had a gun, but I was alone. And yet I wasn't attacked. Maybe they'll be cautious if their opponent is a man. We'll have 2 men, and even 2 guns. Those 2 will act as guards, and I'll transport our cargo using a cart. I believe the situation will be significantly different than it was for Rosa-san. If you're counting on me because I'm a man, I'd be happy to help. I may not look it, but I'm built up pretty strong from pushing food stands around. Leave the heavy lifting to me. You men can devote yourselves to guarding. There's a folding cart in the servant room, and using that, I should be able to handle carrying the food. Of course, we'll be careful. And if we can succeed in this adventure just once, there won't be any need for us to take risks again. Yeah, oh no, it's an escort mission. Escort Kirie to the kitchen. Is there any way I can get you to rethink this? It may be painful for everyone to deal with empty stomachs, but even so, we do not know what is happening outside now. We'll take care. And Ava's feeling pretty darn bad right now. We can't let her stay hungry. And if her stomach's empty, she can't take her medicine. I have to go out for Ava's sake as well. How is Ava? Looks like she's finally gotten to sleep. She has a high fever. If we could just leave her be for a while. Did the sisters kill someone in the kitchen? Yes, they killed Goda in the kitchen, in the fantasy world, but then when they found his body, he was in one of the rooms. So we technically don't know where he was killed, but the game made it appear like it was in the kitchen. You can't just stand still when it comes to your wife's health. Understood. I'll give you permission to go outside. Then we'll take a trip there and back. A speed contest. Canned food's okay, right? You at least have a can opener here, don't you? Yes. We have a can opener and a bottle opener. There's running water in the guest house, so we won't need anything to drink. We need to get 10 people's worth, so no being picky about what we get. Alright. Why don't we dash out and bring it back quickly? There's no time to open up umbrellas. See you, Aniki. I'll trust you to look after this place. Take care. Under normal circumstances, I want to go too. Being a man, I despise how this title of the oldest brother prevents me from lending a hand in an emergency like this. This is about the only time we get to show off. Sit back and take it easy every once in a while, Aniki. Okay, Natsui-san, wait here and get some towels ready or something. We aren't using umbrellas, so we'll be soaked to the bone when we get back. Understood. Take care. Rudolph, Kirie, and Hideyoshi, each leaving their own brave words behind, left the lobby. Yeah, sure, Kraus, sure you actually want to go. Right. We'll believe that. Compared to the time Rosa and Maria had gone outside, the winds were much stronger. Rudolph's group of 3 people jogged through the rose garden without umbrellas, holding their guns and a folded cart. If everything had been still and quiet, without the wind and the rain, they probably would have kept their ears open and moved with caution. But in this rain, even if some suspicious person was hiding nearby, it would be difficult to notice them. Because of that, it had been Rudolph's plan to instead dash through the dangerous area. If there was a chance that their opponent was equipped with a gun, then walking slowly with their guard up would only make them targets. Taking swift action was probably the correct choice. A rose garden. It feels like we're just asking to be attacked. Please, let nobody come out of there. Even as Rudolph and Hideyoshi continued to run, they looked around restlessly, vigilant of their surroundings. Rosa and Maria's deaths had not been caused by a projectile weapon. However, it was easy to suspect the servants had been killed in such a manner. When they come flying, will they come flying out of the dark? Or will they take careful aim and snipe from the shadows? Either way, they couldn't relax their tension for even an instant. But even so, when they reached the overhang in front of the entrance to the mansion and escaped the reach of the raindrops, they felt themselves breathing a sigh of relief. No problems for the first step. Unlike how it was for Rosa-san, maybe they can't get their hands on us easily. I like to believe that. Kirie, unlock the door while we keep a lookout. Sure. Returning home to the mansion with a pair of SPs makes me feel like an executive. Well, haha. If we had a welcoming party of servants with the red carpet, it'd be perfect. A welcoming party, huh? You never know. Be careful. As the two cautiously surveyed their surroundings, Kirie unlocked the entrance with the master key she had been given. It's open. Hideyoshi-san, could you take the front? I'll keep an eye on the rear. Understood. Kirie-san, try not to move from my shadow. Okay, let's break in. Rear guard, roger that, covering. Ah, men. Even in a situation like this, you're just playing around, aren't you? Give it up, that's how men are. Seriously though, that stench is awful. It felt like the air in the mansion was stagnant with a gloomy silence. And on top of that, it was still thick with the stench from Kinzo's burnt corpse in the boiler room. And they were struck with an uncontrollable desire to leave the mansion. No problems in the front, just a short dash to the kitchen. Let's finish this quickly and head home. This suit will get fumigated with Dad's stench. The 3 of them dashed towards the kitchen. And after they disappeared from the entrance hall, the new witch appeared there. They were lured out just as planned. Just as planned, they got caught in my trap. The witch grinned. Thinking about it now, no matter how unbearable their hunger had grown, it hadn't even been a few hours since Rosa and Maria had been attacked and had lost their lives. In that case, why had they needed to recklessly leave the guest house? Until that question could be dealt with, the only answer was that they had been called out by the witch's magic. What reckless people! They'll never leave this mansion alive. Seal yourself, Locke. Seal yourself, mansion. The instant she proclaimed that, the mansion was sealed off into a separate world. Unless her barrier was undone, no longer would anyone be able to exit this mansion or enter it. Spectacular! To think that even though barely half a day has passed since you succeeded the Endless Witch, you can use magic this well. That talent surprises me. It's almost as though you were born a witch. Well, I have been a witch since the time of my birth. Who taught you how to blink? That's what using magic is like for me. What a fearsome person. The witch's face twisted with brutality. She just couldn't help looking forward to toying with someone's life again. Well then. First up is Rudolph and Kirie, but in what cruel way should I kill them? If you don't mind me saying, Your predecessor-sama has left instructions that you are to restrain yourself from committing murders of unnecessary cruelty. And then there is etiquette for offering the sacrifices from the 4th twilight onwards. For that, you must borrow the power of the 7 sisters of Purgatory. Oh really? Now that you mention it, that's right. I could only play as I like with that 2nd twilight. Boring. Just when I thought I could play to my heart's content like I did with Rosa. But that only counts for how they're killed in the end, right? Meaning? I can just kill them however I want over and over again, revive them, and then follow the epitaph during the last time I killed them, right? So in the end, no matter how I play, it isn't a problem. Who'd act well-behaved with an entertaining power like this? Her absurd argument was, for an endless switch, an extremely valid one. The etiquette that controlled the manner of killing the sacrifices of the 4th twilight and onward was represented by lines like, gouge the head. However, that referred to the way those people died in the end. In other words, in the process leading up to that, she was free to tease and kill them however she wanted. She just had to keep on reviving them and follow the rules only when she had killed them the final time. Though Ronov felt her innocent cruelty was part of her talent as a witch, he was beginning to notice an innately brutal side of her. They do say that apprentices are the most brutal of witches, and now I see this may be true. Do as you wish is what I would like to say, but here it might actually be wiser to show restraint. They have guns. Weapons with a high anti-magic power, such as guns, are natural enemies of witches and demons. The witch stared blankly at this demon butler, who was surprisingly afraid of guns. That can't be right. Shouldn't witches be able to take a shot from a bullet easily? No. It would be just as fatal for a witch as it would be for a normal human. To prevent that weak point from being noticed, most witches rigorously strengthen their guard, with the defense of protective barriers and furniture. Do I have any of those protective barrier things? Constructing a barrier to make even gun bullets ineffective requires much in the way of preparation and ceremonies. I am afraid to say that Beatrice-sama currently has none of those. Furthermore, you are ill-prepared to summon furniture strong enough to block a bullet. So even though I've become a great witch with this much magical power, I really do have to be afraid of lead bullets. It's annoying, but I don't have a choice. So in that case, should I call some furniture to act as my arms and legs? Yes. Leaving everything to your servants while not exposing yourself to danger is also part of a witch's refined tastes. Beatrice-sama, leave this to the furniture and hide in a safe place. I get it. I call on the 7 Sisters of Purgatory. I don't care who, any two. Leviathan and Belphegor responded to that call. Leviathan of Envy right here. Belphegor of Sloth right here. Show me your power. Your targets are Rudolph and Kyrie. Don't attack Hideyoshi. Come on, show me just how cruel you could be, furniture. My apologies, but we've received orders from the predecessor-sama to refrain from unnecessarily cruel actions. But I think the predecessor-sama's order does give us some leeway to tease them. Do you still want to go through with it? Huh. I get it, I'll compromise. Don't let them die easily. Thoroughly quarter them and let them taste the fear of death before killing them. Will that be okay, Ronov? Yes, depending on the degree, I do not believe there will be a problem. Then go. Yes, leave it to us. Your opponents are armed with guns. For those such as you, dodging them should be easy. But if you are hit, the wound will be fatal. Proceed with an appropriate level of caution. Don't worry, we aren't that incompetent. The 2 Sisters of Purgatory vanished. Ronov bowed and vanished himself. There are even rules on how to kill them. Why do I have to be constrained by my predecessor-sama? It's so rigid and boring. As the witch looked upon the portrait of the predecessor Beatrice hung in the hall, she cursed. You taking off, Lord Emperor? Thank you so much for coming by. Enjoy your raids. Have fun. The 3 people had already arrived in the kitchen and were gathering food supplies. Considering the possibility of poison, they gave up on the alluring fruits and vegetables, and gathered a whole cardboard box full of only the safe canned foods. It was very heavy, but by piling it on the cart, they could carry it well enough. This should be more than enough for 10 people to hold out until tomorrow's breakfast. That should carry them until the boat arrives. The 2 men were supposed to be focused solely on guard duty, but the weight of the load was tough on Kirie even with the cart. Hideyoshi, who wanted to show off his power, switched to be the cart pusher, and Rudolph and his wife took up the task of guard duty. With all this, even George and the kids will be full. The trip back will be a picnic, so let's go. When Hideyoshi vigorously announced their departure, Kirie frowned and seemed to be gazing into the distance. There was a wall in that direction. No, if her gaze could go through that, there was a main hall beyond it. What is it, Kirie? It's vague, but I've got a bad feeling gnawing at me. Kirie stopped walking and narrowed her eyes even further. Woman's intuition. At times like this, Kirie's intuition often rang true, even when she didn't have a logical reason. Rudolph believed in that intuition. Yes, someone's probably waiting to ambush us. I didn't sense them before, but just now I felt it. Just now, someone set up an ambush for us. Then there's no reason to go back the way we came. There's a back door over there, right? Let's leave that way. Rudolph made to unlock the back door. When goods were carried into the kitchen, they never passed through the part of the mansion that the family came and went from. So outside the back door, there was probably a ramp used to carry things in. Surely they would be able to leave through there with the cart. What the heck? It's stuck! Damn, what's going on? Can't you open it? Nope. Is it broken? It isn't giving an inch. Rudolph tried various things, first using force, then coaxing it. But the lock was hard as stone and didn't even budge. Don't force it, let's leave through the front entrance. Right now, it'll be even worse if we stand around wasting time. You think there's a trap? I don't know. Be careful. With strained expressions, the 3 of them returned to the hall again and headed for the entrance. Who is it? The instant they exited into the hall, Rudolph noticed a suspicious shadow right in front of them and yelled. In that instant, a storm of gold leaves started blowing and gold butterflies covered the area with the gold color. Can't believe it. A lowly human predicted our ambush. It isn't my fault. I was hiding my presence. Don't hesitate. Fire! 2 guns spouted fire. The lead bullets blasted right through the magical defense of the pair as easily as though it was a wet paper wall. But the 2 figures that should have been there had disappeared. Certainly, guns were frightening objects for them, but there was no need to fear as long as they weren't hit. They at least had enough speed to dodge those. Wait a sec, you won't even give us a chance to say our names? This is why I hate humans. Leviathan was a full 10 meters from where she had supposedly been, popping her head out from behind the pillars in the shadow of the staircase and protesting. In accordance with Beatrice-sama's orders, we will hunt you down. Our orders tell us to make it take some time and to tease you. You are free to resist, but know that it will be useless. That voice came from overhead. Belphegor could be seen on top of the hall chandelier. Elegantly looking down upon them, she proclaimed their execution with a cruel smile. What are these girls? Forget the cart. We have 2 opponents, so if we split up, they can't chase all of us. All 3 of them were well acquainted with the inside of the mansion. In the case of a crisis, they had planned to run off in separate directions, returning to the guest house by breaking windows or leaving through a back door. Hey Draco, welcome to the stream. Yes, the room is haunted. Yes, indeed. Fighting was forbidden, as long as they could fully escape. Ha! In a tight spot, escaping is victory. The 3 of them ran into the depths of the mansion at full tilt. The pair of furniture calmly watched them go. I'll kill the woman. You take the man. Understood. The furniture in the shadows of the pillars and on the chandelier made their figures explode, and leaving behind only a sound of hopping beetle knocking against the wall, they pursued their respective targets. Their speed was overwhelming, they easily blocked the others' paths of retreat. Let's see what this furniture's got. I hope they're at least able to amuse me. Beatrice-sama, it may not be prudent for you to reveal your form unnecessarily. And you don't unnecessarily move your king away from the center. That's part of a monarch's. And a witch's dignity. Belphegor was already blocking the way in front of Rudolph, who had boldly tried to escape to the 2nd floor. It's useless to try and resist or escape. You don't need to think about anything. Just close your eyes. I'll gently end it all for you. You'd make a good wife. Husbands love to hear that kind of thing when they get home all tired. To think you're still relaxed enough to speak with such insolence at a time like this. Beatrice-sama, thank you for this excellent prey. Die. Rudolph shot first. But even before that bullet could hit her, Belphegor had already moved behind Rudolph's back. She then raised a purple curve springing out from her arm. However, incredibly, before that arm could decapitate Rudolph, he had swung his gun behind him. The barrel remained pointing behind his back, from the same motion from which he had reloaded the sawed-off gun one-handedly. It was pointing right back at Belphegor's chest. It was the sound of the ejected empty cartridge finally hitting the wall after the reload. In other words, it meant the next shot was already fully loaded. Without turning around, his gun pointing right at Belphegor's chest, Rudolph grinned. Not bad for a middle-aged man. Don't look down on the generation that loves old westerns, okay? You brats don't know anything about the refinements of a lever action. Just like Rudolph, Kiro is also confronting a demon stake in the first floor corridor. What a moron! You could have just escaped with your husband. You do know that this was your final farewell just now, right? Don't worry, this kind of thing is my husband's specialty. I'm sure he'll come for me on a white horse soon. Because he's never failed to come and save me when I'm in trouble. Not even when Asumu-san was still around. Huh. What a happy couple. I'm jealous. I am Leviathan of envy. Envy itself is my power, my anger, my lifeblood. I agree. Envy is the source of a woman's power. And if that is power, I won't lose to a girl like you. Imagine saying that to the one who governs envy. You actually think I'd let you two be reunited? I'll give you a tragic farewell. The arm Leviathan swung was trailed by a purple curve. It was a magic blade that cut with the power of malice. Kyrie blocked it with her gun. Even though the magic blade should have cut through the metal like butter, the gun, with its extremely high magic resistance power, was able to block the blade as easily as if it were rolled up newspaper. Rapidly, 2 times, 3 times, it blocked all of them. And without missing the opening created when that purple curve took a swing upward, Kyrie kicked Leviathan in the stomach with her heel. Leviathan was knocked away like a lightly dancing feather. Before the demon stake feet touched the ground again, Kyrie was already pointing her gun directly at Leviathan in midair. From that position, the two women who had called envy a foreign power met each other's gaze. Can you do it? Can you pull that trigger? I could be brutal when my husband isn't around. Ow, ow, ow! Rudolph tumbled down the staircase. He'd been gradually cornered by Belphegor and had been pushed back into the main hall they'd come from. The predecessor-sama's furniture is pretty good. They aren't very flashy, though. Beatrice-sama, it isn't over yet. It's dangerous to show yourself. Don't tell me you're... Ava? That used to be my name, but it's different now, Rudolph. You don't have to tell me. You're gonna say you're the Golden Witch Beatrice, right? How did you know that? Since the time Rosa was killed, I had a vague idea. Rosa, forgive me. Forgive me for sending the sister you hated down to the hell you're in. Beatrice-sama, look out! Rudolph mercilessly pointed the barrel of his gun at the witch who claimed to have been once his sister. But Belphegor would not permit that and attacked savagely. She dashed, disappeared, and headed for Rudolph's back. She dodged that shot, and again headed for Rudolph's back. And vanished over and over, instantly moving into Rudolph's blind spots. It was almost like she was a fairy. As she blinked in and out of vision, Belphegor incessantly drove towards Rudolph. Maybe this is kind of fun. Rudolph, let me sit back and watch you to see how long your brave efforts last you. At that time, there was a dull tearing sound along with Rudolph's cry of anguish. Rudolph's reaction to the dance of the purple curve that pressed upon him had finally been too slow, and he let it lightly cut his flank. That single wound slowed him down just once. This led to a new wound, which slowed his actions again. Now, of course, Dance began to swallow Rudolph whole. Watching Rudolph's body gradually get carved up, his former sister let out a shrill laugh. Leviathan could no longer hide her irritation that Kyrie hadn't suffered a single fatal wound. I really am a moron. Among the 7 sisters, I was always the slowest to grow. I was always slow, always weak, always stupid. That inferiority complex became envy, and when I convert that into power, I gain a strength greater than that of any of the sisters. It's important for young girls to have a moderate inferiority complex. It teaches women about cosmetics and hard work. I don't like having to use the limits of my power against mere humans, but I could turn my envy of your ability to trust completely in your husband into power. I don't like it. Why are you so relaxed when you're fighting for your life? I wonder. I get it. You're fully convinced your husband will come to save you and rescue you. Isn't it incredible, that trust of yours? It's enough to make me jealous. What kind of trust did we sisters have for each other? The sisters are always looking down on each other, trying to thoroughly lambast each other when things are already looking bad. I've always been bullied by my sisters. I've always wanted just one person to take my side. So when I see you with a single ally who's completely trustworthy, I feel the strongest envy. Ah, that confident expression of utter belief in your husband. I could feel it giving me power. I might even surpass that. The speed of sound. Leviathan turned herself into a stake, and the speed of her flight as she was attacked was proportional to the strength of her envy. Since the day my sisters looked down on me, I was jealous from the bottom of my heart of the other 6 who grew quickly. I was jealous for 7 days and 7 nights. You could see the power I gained as a result in my speed. Die, Ushimiya Kyrie! The demon stake exposed her true form, leaping about at a terrible speed. The noise from her bouncing off the wall sounded like a machine gun. By now, Kyrie probably couldn't tell if it was a single stake or a swarm of beetles flying and bouncing around. Leviathan was over 100% certain of her victory, believing in it from the bottom of her heart. Then, Kyrie spoke with an unbelievably calm voice. I was the one who went out with Rudolph-san first. Asumu-san blatantly cut in between us, and she shrewdly got pregnant. I don't blame Rudolph-san. That woman used her body as a weapon to seduce him, and then acted even more repulsively, cornering Rudolph-san and forcing him to get engaged to her. Asumu-san had been carrying Badler-kun, and at the same time I was also carrying a boy. As fate would have it, our delivery dates were on the same day. Then, as Asumu-san gave birth to Badler-kun, but I had a miscarriage. I think about it sometimes. What if Asumu-san had had the miscarriage, and I had been the one to give birth? Would Rudolph-san have broken off his engagement and married me? But I couldn't give birth to my child. So until Asumu-san died, and until I got pregnant with Ange, I cursed Asumu-san and was jealous. Let Asumu-san die. Then I want him to marry me. In my envy, I kept cursing like that, over and over, until Asumu-san finally died. I was certain I'd use the power of magic to curse and kill Asumu-san. But that didn't quite quell the flames of my envy. Don't tell anyone, okay? Every time I look at Badler-kun, I remember that woman. Every single time I look at him, I think that if only my child had been born, he would have been the same age. I'm still jealous of her, tormented by her, even now and from now on, into the future, for all eternity. You say you were jealous of your sisters for 7 days and 7 nights? That's right. Don't make me laugh, little girl. How could you understand the madness of a woman whose man was stolen from her, who's burned with envy for 18 years? Ah! If Leviathan had the power of 24 hours times 7 days, or 168 hours of speed, then the power that Kyrie had piled up was 24 hours in 1 day, 365 days in 1 year, and 18 whole years. Even without counting leap years, that was 157,680 hours. Compared to Leviathan's power and speed, it was more than 938 times greater. So then even if Leviathan could soar at the speed of sound, 1,225 kilometers per hour, to Kyrie's eyes, it only looked like 938 of that. Here's the math lesson, guys. Which means 1,225 divided by 938 is a speed of 1.30 kilometers per hour. They say a human's walking speed is 4 kilometers per hour, so it's even less than half of that. This is almost the same speed as a baby crawling on the floor. Which means... In the time it took the demon stake to move at a pace so slow that you can count all the bits of dust floating through the air, Kyrie looked at it with pity. She pitied the slowness at which it came towards her. Then she lazily raised the barrel of her gun, almost as though she was trying to swallow the demon's stake up with the gun barrel. You're completely lacking in both romance and envy. Try harder next time, little girl. Rudolph, what happened to all that vigor from a couple seconds ago? You're supposed to slice up a fish while it's still flopping around. After it dies, it isn't interesting anymore. That's enough. Why not kill you now? Ugh, damn it. I'm surprised you managed to endure this long after being carved up. That's enough. From now on, you don't need to think about anything. I'll steal away your life painlessly. Wait, there's a favor I want to ask. At the very end, I want to do one of those. What do you mean, one of those? You know, that thing you see in all the westerns. We start with our backs together, walk 3 steps, and then bang. Ah, a duel. Very well. If that will satisfy your regrets in this world, I'll accept. Rudolph moved his wound-covered body and turned his back to her. Belphegor responded and turned her back to his. Belphegor had an honest nature that was uncommon in witches' furniture. Let me warn you, even if you press the barrel of your gun between my eyebrows, I can move instantaneously, even faster than you could pull the trigger and have the bullet reach my skull. Yeah, I can feel that already. You're faster than a bullet. I've agreed to this out of respect for your courage in challenging me to a duel despite that knowledge. Thank me. Well, you're an honest and principled person, and a good woman. You might just steal my heart away. Let's begin. 3 steps will do fine, yes? First, 1 step. 2 steps. 3 steps. Is that okay? Yep. And since you still haven't noticed after walking 3 whole steps, it's my victory, miss. What? Ah! Rudolph turned around and fired a bullet. However, Belphegor could easily see through the speed and trajectory of a bullet like that. It should have been no problem at all to dodge it. But a spray of fresh blood flew about. Belphegor had set up an adequate magical defensive barrier, but before an incarnation of anti-magic power such as that bullet, it was completely meaningless. What are you doing? Why'd you get hit? The bullet had hit Belphegor right in the chest. The pain from the lead caused her to grimace, as did the pain from the denial of magic. Forgive me. I'm a coward of a man. What a killjoy. To think that furniture of a witch could be defeated by a human. Know your shame. Worthless, pathetic. If only you just grovel and die. Quit it, Aniki. She could have dodged it, but she didn't. She realized that you were in the line of fire, Aniki. So this faithful girl took it without dodging, protecting you. At the very end, she saw that I was pinning the rook and the king. Spectacular. Don't hate me for it. I planned to resign if you noticed it while you were taking those 3 steps. You added those 3 steps. Out of consideration for me, didn't you? I didn't even try to think about it. I I was lazy. You were a good woman. Go to heaven before me and get yourself all made up. I'll definitely come and chat you up. As Belphegor slowly fell over, she lost even the power that kept her in human form, and she grew small like gold dust melting into thin air. At that point, Kyrie dashed in. It seemed she had somehow defeated her pursuer by her own hands. As she pointed the barrel of her gun straight at the witch, she ran up to the wound-covered Rudolph. Are you okay? Were you chatting someone up just now? Yep, a good woman. No match for you, of course. Sorry, Aniki. It's checkmate. As the two of them pinned the witch down the barrels of their guns. Worthless furniture. Hey, M Captain! Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for the raid. Hey, everyone. Hey, Big Mama Jacob. Thank you so much. Here, I'll give you a shout out. Oops. Gotta make sure I spell your name right. Thanks so much. Join us in following M Captain when you get a chance. Really, really nice guy and really cool streamer. Thank you so much for sharing your audience with me. Hey, welcome, welcome. I'm Kiro, froggy martial artist, and we are reading Umineko. Hey, Big Mama Jacob, thanks for following me. Thanks for being a froggy friend. This is it's a murder mystery mixed with fantasy elements, and we are currently on chapter 3. And you came right in the middle of an interesting battle scene. Thank you so much. Worthless furniture. To think they'd be beaten by human opponents. Worthless. Stupid. Boring. Beatrice-sama, we should retreat for now. There's no furniture or barrier to guard against bullets here. The witch began to let out a muffled laugh. It surprised not only Rudolph and Kyrie, but Ronov as well. Because a situation like this, with two guns pointed at her, was not one that even a witch could just laugh off. But the witch laughed with pleasure. Well, it's only natural that predecessor Sama's worn-out furniture couldn't do it. I need to get new furniture that's suitable for me. I use them out of obligation, but I've always hated second-hand stuff. As she said that, she looked down at Belphegor's remains, which had already finished turning into a pile of gold dust with disgust. I don't know what you're talking about. Be a good girl and put your hands up. Then the witch obediently raised her hands. But instead of raising her hands because a gun was being pointed at her, it looked more like she was a conductor, facing an orchestra, waving her conductor's baton. Come, arise, furniture suitable for me. Not that cheap furniture, much stronger ones. Cruel ones. Stop this bizarre act. I'll pull the trigger. In response to the witch's call, the hall was once again buried with the color of gold. As the brilliantly radiant gold butterflies danced, it felt as though they were being sucked into an ocean of gold leaf. Ronov was shocked at that upsurge in magical power. After all, it far surpassed that of his former master. Oh, you're playing World of Warships. Oh, that's cool. That game looks pretty fun. I'm glad you had a good time. Feel free to take a little rest. I know it's tiring after a stream. Thank you again for dropping by. As their eyes were dazzled amidst the golden flash, a gunshot could be heard. Either Rudolph or Kyrie had fired a round. Then, when the gold flash subsided, at the very least the witch was standing there looking cool and composed. The bullet? Kyrie must have fired it into her, but the witch had not been hit anywhere on her body. There it is. The bullet had been fastened in midair right in front of the witch's chest. A bulletproof barrier? In an instant, a barrier that would require a significant amount of preparation, even for the predecessor, had been... Ronov's face was twisted in shock, and the surprises did not end there. The cloud of gold butterflies had created two humanoid forms. It was a furniture summoning. The butterflies peeled off and flew away, and beneath them, furniture in the shape of girls showed themselves. The Chester Sisters Corps. Even the predecessor wasn't able to summon Pendragon's memorial troops on a moment's notice, And to do it so easily. Chester 410, right here. Chester 45, right here. Their names are named after the Winchester rifles, so Winchester 410 and Winchester caliber 45. They're guns. In fact, the same guns that Rudolph and Kiro are holding. You two are suitable furniture for me, I take it. From reading a picture book out loud, to going on a date, to shooting down meteorites, we'll take care of anything. If we don't take care of it, Pendragon-sama will get mad at us. Please, your orders, great Lady Beatrice. Rudolph-san, let's run for it. We're no match for these ones. Sure. Kyrie definitely heard warning sirens going off in her head, thanks to the same feeling that had alerted her to the ambush by the Seven Sisters of Purgatory. Without hesitation, they escaped. As the witch elegantly watched them leave, she commanded her new furniture. This is an order. Kill the two who ran away. Then bring the corpses back here. I'll bring them back to life and play with them over and over. The witch's expression twisted into an evil smile. Even though she feared that expression, Lucifer appeared and spoke. Forgive my presumption, but the predecessor-sama asked that you avoid brutal actions of that sort. When the witch stared at her with those terrifying eyes, Lucifer was struck dumb. She was frustrated. It was boring not being able to let her own power and cruelty run wild. This annoying furniture of the predecessor kept telling her to show restraint, bringing her irritation to a peak. Hey, Psycho Reaper, welcome to the stream! Thanks so much for coming. You came just in time for a demon summoning. Oh, it's Lucifer of Pride. Long time no see, eh? How you doing? Let's play together again sometime. You mustn't whisper, 410, you'll get in trouble. Let's carry out the great Beatrice-sama's orders at once. Well, yeah, we are on the job right now, yeah. 410, roger that. Preparing for sniping pursuit combat. Accumulating terrain data, accumulating data for firing. Data link with 410. 410, data received. Target locked acquired. Commencing terrain calculation error correction. Formulating firing curve. Supplemental control point calculations complete. Data linked to 45. 45, data received. Checking hazard zone. Ah, that's so good. Lucifer-chan, better get out from behind us, or you'll get roasted by the back blast. Thanks to their paired measurements, the Chester sisters were able to instantly calculate the terrain throughout the mansion and the coordinates of their targets, as well as a firing curve to reach them. That's right, their shots could be guided to follow a curved line. None could escape. The precision guidance used by the Seven Sisters of Purgatory was nothing more than a cheap knockoff of the ability these two held. 45 preparations concluded. Ammo type selected and loaded. As the two of them faced each other, it was as though they were both pulling back a bowstring together. A dazzling gold arrow was readied there. 410, firing! After giving that announcement, they released a single arrow together. As the path taken by the gold sparkling snake of light drew a curve, it followed the direction that Rudolph and Kyrie had escaped to in rapid pursuit. It turned through the corridors, crawled over the floor, chasing them as they drew a beautiful curve. No one could block the guided shots of the Chester sisters. No one could escape from them, and their strength could pierce all physical and magical defenses. It was quite a merciless guided weapon of certain death. However, among mythical class soldiers, it was a weapon used by pretty much everyone. It was very commonplace for them, and very extraordinary for those of the everyday world. What the? When he noticed something rapidly chasing them and turned around. The exact position of Rudolph's heart was pierced by the gold snake. It all happened in an instant. Rudolph-san! After the gold snake pierced Rudolph, it swooped down to the floor, drawing a beautiful spiral, coiled itself around Kyrie's legs and crawled up to her chest. Just like Rudolph, it pierced the exact location of her heart. All of that happened in an instant. It pierced Rudolph, then Kyrie. So they died, dropped to their knees, and fell over at almost the exact same time. What's this? Talk about overwhelming. Ridiculously easy, isn't it? This is the kind of furniture I need. Way different from predecessor Sama's second-hand furniture. Come on, bring their corpses here. I'll keep reviving them until I'm bored, and I'll try killing them in a brutal way as I could think of. Ah, to think being a witch could be so much fun. That taking a life could be so much fun. From the time humans are born, the most shunned action they could take is the murder of another human. It's only natural that humans can't understand how pleasurable it is to be breaking this taboo. But she was no longer a human. She was a witch. And there were some pleasures that only witches could understand. You know I'm not doing it on purpose, but my voice is starting to make you sleepy. But now she had tasted those pleasures and was totally immersed in them. After learning that the contents of the forbidden pot were honey, she could no longer live without them. No, maybe the contents were honey because they were forbidden. Anyway, by killing humans gruesomely, doing it over and over, she could feel the drug-like pleasure even now. As the witch rolled over laughing, the gold snake that had just been shot returned as though being reeled in. At the tips, 2 people were pinned and dragged along. The witch's order had been fulfilled. Rudolph and Kyrie had been killed instantly, and their corpses had been carried back. Gestures 45 and 410. Order execution complete. We await your next order, Great Lady Beatrice. Please, your orders. From babysitting to playing online games with you, to shooting down a space shuttle, we'll take care of everything. It looks like these 2 are the sacrifices for the 4th and 5th Twilights, so in the end I'll need those worthless 7 sisters. Or are they the 5 sisters now? I need those guys to pierce and gouge the forehead and the chest. But I could do that at the very end, and I'm free to play in any way I want until then, right? Wait. Have you already forgotten what I've told you? Oh, it's you, Predecessor-sama. Do you have any complaints? Of course I do. You're doing whatever you please, aren't you? Why haven't you followed my directions? What's wrong with doing as I please, Predecessor-sama? Anyway, I don't plan on deviating from the rules of the ceremony in the slightest. I'll definitely clean these 2 corpses up later and drive stakes to their forehead and chest. I'm telling you, that is not the problem. If you act so undignified and cruel, some people might take it badly. You mean your opponent in that game, the one you're supposedly fighting against somewhere. Ronov told me. Damn that blabbermouth. Well, to be perfectly honest, that's how it is. If you go a little too far, that person will object, you see? Why can't this person just complain to me directly, instead of making you take a message? That coward. Well, this is a resident of a different world from yours. There's no choice but to use me as an intermediary. Well, that's beside the point, but, which means that this person couldn't interact with me, even if they wanted to. And I can't interact with them, even if I want to either. Simply put, this is a completely unrelated person from a world that distant, right? Indeed. For example, perhaps you could say these worlds are like very close parallel lines. The distance between them is quite small, but because the lines are parallel, they will never cross. For now, there should be a convenient way for you to view that world. They never cross, which means that world has nothing to do with me. If you're speaking for that person, when you tell me to show restraint, please pass this message on to them. To them? What should I say? It's none of your business, so disappear, you old hag. If only you just give up and die. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Since it was a friend of yours, I just assumed she'd be a woman. By old hag, I'm definitely not talking about you, Predecessor-sama. So please don't get mad at me. When she spoke, the witch was looking straight into Bito's eyes. Anyone present would be able to tell what she meant by it. Predecessor-sama, there's something I find really strange. Why do you have to play a game with someone from another world, and have him accept that you're a witch? Well, as to that, it's because making all humans accept the existence of witches is a prerequisite of perfect control. There was a single holdout who simply couldn't accept me as a witch. Why would you need the approval of a human? Witches are witches and can use magic, so why should we be acknowledged by humans? Well, like I said earlier, magic is, I am a witch. I can use magic without anyone's approval in particular, so what's your point? In this world, right? However, since that person won't accept it, how should I explain it? I don't need you to. After all, isn't this all about a different world that never crosses this one? In other words, that world might as well not exist. Hey, Ghosty Spooky, welcome to the stream. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Hope you're doing well. You fighting a game in another world is absolutely no different from you telling me about stuff from your imagination. I'll say it again. It has nothing to do with me. And I am already a witch. Predecessor-sama, somehow or another, it seems you can't become a witch as long as this person doesn't acknowledge you, but I'm different. Even though no one has acknowledged me, I'm an excellent witch already. Since you are my predecessor, I will formally pay you respect, but that's out of kindness, not out of duty. I won't ask for your advice anymore, because I clearly know what I should do and how I should play from now on. So I will carry out the murder of 18 people as a final act of respect for you. However, there is absolutely no reason for you to interfere with the methods I use, or what I do afterwards. Therefore, I'll be counting on you in that regard. At a glance, those words seemed obedient, but they contained with them a clear parting of ways. She was no longer under Bito's care in any way. That's why she was clearly saying nothing more than, "Don't get in the way of my fun." I'm doing well, thank you, Ghosty. I really appreciate you coming by. It's been a while since we've done an Umineko stream, so I'm eager to get back into the story. Bito understood that, and was dejected, realizing that no matter how she explained it, she wouldn't be able to make the witch understand. I see. Then it is no longer my problem. Go and learn with your own body how magic ceases to exist when you lose your respect for it. I wish you'd tell me where the respect was in that carefree rampage of yours up till now. After hearing that, Bito could not respond, because she remembered hearing exactly the same thing from her teacher. Okay now, Chester sisters, see off my predecessor on her way back. Predecessor-sama, please leave this place. If you don't, we'll be scolded. Throughout her body, Bito felt something unseeable from the Chester sisters, who could only be described as an oppressive sensation. Most likely they were initiating firing calculations. It was an action much like taking out a gun and cocking it. Even Bito could not escape from the Chester sisters' attacks without any preparation. In the past, she had placed her greatest trust in them, so she knew how terrifying they were down to their very soul. Predecessor-sama, if you would retire, I would not recommend damaging Beatrice-sama's mood any further. Predecessor-sama. I understand. I shall leave for now. I'll watch over the end you eventually reach at my leisure. It was almost infinitely close to a parting shot. So after Bito vanished, the witch and her furniture doubled over laughing. Well, I do understand. The endless power is fun. The joy of freely toying with an extremely limited life cannot be explained to those who have not tasted it. I can understand that feeling of being possessed with a pleasure similar to drugs. It must have been quite fun, judging by your antics in the past. Are you saying it's just like when you tried to admonish me in the past, over and over, and I did not listen? Why have you started trying to scold that child for her actions? Well... There's a single large difference between you and that child. That child may already be a witch. Of course, you are also a witch. At least in the world on top of the game board. However, to be acknowledged as a witch in the world outside the game board, you need to have Badler-kun, your opponent in this game, acknowledge you. You must have understood that when you started the game. I thought that if I could show off a whirlwind of proof that I'm a witch, blow away his desire to deny me and make him surrender, he would acknowledge me as a witch. It all went my way last time, so I thought it was just a breath away. It's actually the opposite. Badler-kun was disgusted by your brutality. He did not step up to the plate as a player because he acknowledged you as a worthy opponent. It was based on a strong animosity, his resolve to completely deny the existence of a brutal witch. In your foolishness, you probably felt that Battler-kun's acceptance of his role as your opponent was a first step towards making him acknowledge you as a witch. However, it was actually the opposite. Battler-kun challenged you in this game because he was absolutely determined not to acknowledge you. No matter how hard the thoughtless north wind blows, the traveler only wears his cloak even tighter. You were committing a huge error from the very beginning. This game is not torture to make Battler-kun surrender. It is a test in which you must try to make Battler-kun accept you. I vaguely noticed that. That last game was a tough one by Battler. But as it seems you've already noticed, this game is a tough one for you. What should I do from now on? Think about it for yourself. Fortunately, you have already given up your pieces on the game board to the new witch. You should have plenty of time to reflect upon your own self. But Battler's already a mass of hostility to me. He won't accept witches, so he won't accept me. In that case, what can I do to make him accept me? Are you saying that if the north wind doesn't work, I should shine on him as a sun from now on? Me? After all this time? It's October now, the Halloween season. It's the month of rebirth, when the sun dies and is revived again. When the sun is weak right after reviving, it may not reach far through the cold winter winds. However, it slowly grows, and is eventually able to hail the coming of spring. At that time, the traveler may even fold up his cloak. Are you saying that I've been mistaken? The beautiful hall of the Ushimiya mansion was covered with a gold sparkle like gold leaf, and stained deep red with thick spurts of blood. The number of deaths given to Rudolph and Kirie had long surpassed anything you can count on both your fingers and your toes. The witch was breathing so hard her shoulders shook, but it wasn't because she was tired. She just couldn't hide her ragged breaths caused by her still uncontainable excitement. How fun it is to do as I will with people's lives and deaths. With the power of the endless witch, the endless everything I paint with my mind becomes reality. No matter how sloppily I mash them, I can revive them, returning them to normal with just a snap of my fingers. Because in the end, I just have to restore the corpses, and follow the epitaph as an afterthought. Hey, you guys. Have you ever sliced up an animal's stomach open? Never. What about you, 45? No, I've never done it. My apologies. That's understandable. Normally you wouldn't. Especially not if it was a stuffed animal you liked. But I've always thought about it. I've always thought about peeking in and seeing what was packed inside this fluffy, stuffed animal I loved. If you cut it and looked inside, your curiosity might be quelled, but the stuffed animal would be broken. So even though you want to see, you can't. You understand that feeling, right? The power of the Endless Witch can truly grant that wish. As I am now, I can slice the stuffed animal all I want. And yet with a bit of magic, I return it to normal and revive it. In other words, it means I've broken all limitations in this world. As I am now, I don't have to hesitate or give up on an idea or anything. That joy. There's probably no one who can understand it. No one other than me, the Golden Witch. As the witch let out a mad war cry, she revived Rudolph and Kirie again, and faster than they could realize it, she killed them right away. And she made it known that something other than cotton was stuffed inside those two. Quitadeva! Huh? Ah, it's you. How long have you been there? In that gruesome hall, Hideyoshi appeared with his gun readied. The witch had sealed the mansion with a barrier, so Hideyoshi had nowhere to run. He'd probably picked up Rudolph's or Kirie's gun and come back. The gun, which should have been something to be feared, was apparently no longer an object she took seriously, now that she was overflowing with magical power. Her bold expression didn't flinch in the slightest. Why did you have to kill Rosa-san and Maria-chan? And Rudolph-kun? And Kirie-san? Huh? I'm the head of the Ushimiya family, the Witch of Rokenjima. Everything that occurs on this island is all up to me. Whether they happen to be alive or dead at any particular moment in time is meaningless to me. You went mad after finding Father's gold. Just how high must that gold have been piled up? I can't even imagine it. It must have been enough to steal away your sanity. But if there was that much gold, why didn't you think of so graciously splitting it up? You misunderstand. All of that belongs to the Golden Witch. No one is qualified to touch it except me. What are you? Don't tell me you're that thing Ava told me long ago. The witch Ava from when she was young. That's right. I am the me from my years as a girl, who's been living in the heart of your wife, Ushimiya Ava, this whole time. And I'm a witch. Ava became an adult by forgetting me, so she can't use magic. All kids get their heads filled with innocent but cruel ideas sometimes. When I was young, I'd sometimes go around stepping on ants and pulling the wings off dragonflies. However, I learned the importance of life and graduated from that cruel childhood age. Right now, you really are a child. A personality that I know Ava graduated from. That personality isn't Ava. It's a completely different human. That's right. I'm not Ushimiya Ava. I'm the Golden Witch Beatrice. It's so fun not being bounded by any limitations, and the pleasure of being able to do so as I will with life and death is truly wonderful. I don't have to apologize for breaking a goldfish bowl, and I can tear the stuffed animals up as much as I want. It was a crisp sound. It was the sound of Hideyoshi slapping the witch's face. Looking at the hall stained deep red with fresh blood, he should have been able to imagine how terrible the witch was. But without fear, without even hesitating, Hideyoshi had walked determinedly up to her and hit her on the cheek. You fool! Don't act like you're cruel, not when you're really a coward and a weakling. I'll correct that evil nature of yours again if I have to. You fool! Fool! Ow! Ow! Hey! You're a woman who understands how important, how fragile a life is, aren't you? I'll make you remember. What are you calling a witch, you stupid fool? You're my wife, Ushimiya Ava. If anything, you're the witch of the kitchen, who can always make me the perfect snacks out of refrigerator leftovers in a flash. Won't you open your eyes, you fool? Hideyoshi, I don't think that's as romantic as you're making it sound. Didn't I just tell you that I'm not Ushimiya Ava? You stupid fool. You. As tears dripped down his face, Hideyoshi kept hitting the witch's head. He wasn't even pointing the gun at her anymore. Therefore, the sound of gunfire couldn't have come from the gun Hideyoshi was holding. The gun, which had fallen in the corner near Rudolph's corpse, was floating in the air, and smoke lingered near the barrel. And the bullet? A red stain was slowly spreading across the chest section of Hideyoshi's vest. Even though his back was facing the barrel of the gun, the bullet had driven through Hideyoshi's chest. Ava... Like I said, I'm not Ava. What a stupid, annoying man. You're a pain, so I'll switch the sacrifice of the sixth twilight to you. If only you'd just hidden under some bed shaking or something, I planned on letting you go. But no, you went to all the trouble of coming back. You really are a stupid man. There was a dull sound as Hideyoshi fell to the floor. Even though death would have allowed him to escape from that pain, he resisted until the last second, and staring straight into the witch's eyes, he passed away. Because he had died without closing his eyes, the witch didn't realize that he was dead for a short while, and remained pinned by that gaze. Should we make this one a new toy and play? At those words, the witch finally realized that Hideyoshi was dead. Yeah. Right. What do we do? The Chiesa sisters waited for instructions. On the inside, they imagined the sorts of even more brutal orders their master might give. But the expression that rose to the witch's face looked as though she'd gotten over her excitement. She looked down at Hideyoshi's face, which still had tears dripping down on it. It's such a killjoy, and it's all this guy's fault. I'm done. Ronolf, are you there? Yes, right here. Take care of the cleanup. I'll bet the predecessor Sama makes a fuss over this one. Please make it clean enough for that old hag to accept. I guess I'll follow the rules of the ceremony out of a sense of obligation to my predecessor Sama. Treat these 3 corpses as the 4 through 6 twilights. Lucifer, it's your turn. Lucifer of Pride, right here. Dig into these 3 corpses and gouge them. Into corpses. That's right. Got a problem with that? No. The 7 Sisters of Purgatory had their own sort of pride. It was the pride of a hunter, the pride of gouging prey that they had brought down themselves. However, being told to gouge a corpse that someone else had brought down ran contrary to that sentiment. Of course, the witch didn't mean it that way, but for the 7 Sisters it was horribly humiliating. However, they had already screwed this up, with 2 of the sisters defeated, so they had no right to question her. Only Ronov appreciated this, and he rested his hand on his shoulder in understanding. This is an order from Beatrice-sama. Lucifer, carry these 3 and dispose of them in accordance with the etiquette of the ceremony. Then when you are done, lend me a hand with the cleanup. Certainly. The witch looked down upon Hideyoshi's corpse, as though implying that now the delicate atmosphere was all Hideyoshi's fault. Stupid man. He didn't even have to die. Dear! Ah! Dear, where are you? You're there, right? Answer me! The crash of a thunderbolt woke Ava from her nightmare. If Hideyoshi had been gripping her hand at that time, her fearful heart would probably have been instantly healed. However, Hideyoshi, who had supposedly sworn that he wouldn't leave even for a moment, was nowhere to be seen in the room. Dear, answer me. Dear, ah. So, I just want to say, like, because we just got through, like, a really intense scene with, like, all the fighting and stuff. Like, I really like the battle scenes in Umineko. Like, they're not, like, I don't think they're written in a way that's extremely, like, spectacular. It's not the choice of words or the diction that makes them, like, really enjoyable. I just really like the idea of this world building. Like, you have all these, like, supernatural, really powerful creatures, or witches, or demons, that clearly surpass the humans, and like basically beat out the humans in every way. And then you get these cool fight scenes where the humans fight back and struggle, and for the most part you know that the humans are going to die in the end anyways, but they're still able to put up a fight, and it's usually because of some in-universe explanation that wasn't like spelled out for you, but it makes sense once it falls into place. Like how, for example, Leviathan, the demon that governs envy, right, gets her power from envy, and then she talks about like envy and like 7 days and 7 nights and all the, you know, like the reference to the Bible and all that stuff. And then Kyrie, because of her situation, because we kind of learned a bit more about her there, has been envious for 18 years or whatever it is. So, like by that logic, she's stronger and faster than Leviathan, right? Or like Rudolph being like sneaky and crafty and being an enjoyer of like westerns, tricking the slothful Belphegor into doing a duel and then like sneakily shooting at Ava Beatrice instead. Like it makes sense given his personality and abilities and her slothfulness and Ava Beatrice's carelessness. Like I just really like how the fight scenes play out, because you're like, well, they don't stand a chance, and then when they play it out, it's like, oh, by this logic, actually, no, you're right. And it actually starts coming together. Same with the fight scenes from episode 2 as well. And of course the music is always really good during those scenes. Again, I wish a lot of the music, like a lot of good music in Umineko, I mean it's all good music, but it mostly plays during like the intense moments. So then when you get all the downtime, you get no, you don't really get much music. Like right now it's just the sound of falling raindrops, right? It's just, I mean, having the intense moments spaced out gives them more impact than having them constantly. But the music is just so good that I wish they would play it all the time. But yeah, I think it's really neat, and of course there's more of that still to come, but I just thought that was really cool. The first time I got to this part, I was very surprised by Kyrie and Rudolph. 30 minutes had already passed since Rudolph's group had left the guest house. By any measure, their return was too late. And Kraus and Natsui, who waited by the entrance, were reaching the limits of their patience. The chain was set on the door. That was a precaution in the event that Rudolph's group was attacked and the master key stolen from them. For that reason, they needed to wait by the entrance like this for the others to return. They really are too late. Don't you think something might have happened to them? Indeed. Kraus glanced between his watch and the door, struggling to keep his composure. If something happened to prevent them from returning... A terrible thought, but it seems we should be ready ourselves for that possibility. So it really was too reckless after all. That is what I said. Why did they go outside when they knew it was this dangerous? How foolish! Why go outside even though Rosa-san had just been attacked? Nothing will come of saying that now. At any rate, there are now 3 adults in the guest house. Me, you, and Ava, who's asleep with a high fever. Are they just forgetting about Dr. Nanjo? At that time, the forceful sound of a door being opened came from the hallway, and they heard Ava's panicked voice. That voice kept calling out Hideyoshi's name. It seemed as though she'd had a bad dream or something, due to her fever, and was calling for her husband. Ava-san! What is it? Are you okay? Where is my husband? My husband isn't here. Even though he promised he'd stay with me the whole time. Even though he promised me he'd grasp my hand the whole time. Kraus was struck dumb by this attitude of hers, which she had never shown in front of him before, but Natsui understood her feelings. Calm down. Hideyoshi-san is with Rudolph-san, and Kirie-san, and they're outside right now. Outside? Why? Why did he go outside, after he promised that he'd stay with me the whole time? You mustn't go outside, the witch is outside! You mustn't go, you'll be killed! Ugh! Ava, calm yourself. Hideyoshi-san returned to the mansion with Rudolph-san and Kirie-san. Why did he have to go to the mansion? Why did he go outside even though it's safe here? Why did he go back to the mansion? They went to get enough food to last until tomorrow. Hideyoshi-san was worried about your health, and said that was partly why he wanted to go. When will they come back? When will they come back? Don't go outside. Don't go to the rose garden. Don't go to the mansion. The witch is there. The golden witch is walking about. If she finds you, you'll be killed. You'll definitely be killed. When will my husband come back? They left here 30 minutes ago. We are waiting for their return. Wait, 30 minutes? I thought it said it was well past time they should have returned. 30 minutes is not that long. 30 minutes ago? Isn't that strange? Why would it take so much time for them to go to the mansion and get food and come back? Why are you two just standing around here? We have to go get them. We have to hurry to where they are. Ava probably had quite a nightmare, and because it had continued even after she woke up, she could no longer hide her panic. Natsui tried calming her down, but all it did was make Ava's emotions explode even more. Maybe they heard that disturbance. Badler and the kids, who had supposedly been on the second floor, were peeking their faces through the crack of the lobby door. Kraus, Natsui, Ava, and Badler, George, Jessica, Nanjo. Everyone in the guest house had gathered by the entrance and understood the current situation. I agree with Mother. We should go to check on Father and the rest. Yeah, that's right. It's even possible their load's too heavy and they're having trouble carrying it. They should welcome some extra hands. This happened right after Rosa-san was attacked. This may have been a secondary disaster connected to that. We should act with caution here and... Don't be a fool! What do you mean, caution? Are you saying we should let my husband die even though he might be begging for his life? I'm going to look and the cowards can stay here. Looking agitated, Ava raised her gun. Judging by her face, it would be useless for anyone to try and stop her. George, who realized that first, raised his head. I'll go as well. You will too, right, Badler-kun? The more people, the better. Sure. Aunt Ava, we're coming even if you tell us not to. I'm coming too. I can't be the only one to hide in a safe space. Jessica, you must not go outside. Stay here with me. Got it? It was like they were implying that those three had already been killed anyway, so going outside would be pointless. Natsui realized that Ava felt like her heart had been gouged out, but she spoke out strongly as Jessica's mother. You're right. That should be fine. Let's have Nissan's family keep an eye on the guest house. This is a problem for my family and Badler-kun's, and I wonder if Dr. Nanjo would mind coming too. Just in case. Dr. Nanjo's like, don't drag me into this, I'm an old man. In the hall of the mansion, Battler, Ava, George, and Nanjo found the corpses of Rudolph, Kirie, and Hideyoshi. The 4th through 6th twilights. Then the corpses were pierced through the forehead, chest, and stomach with those demon stakes. Yes. The demon stakes were buried into them, one in Rudolph's forehead, one in Hideyoshi's chest, and one in Kirie's stomach. The disorder of the clothing on all three suggests they were fighting or running away. Since the 3 corpses were not found right next to each other, it is hypothesized that after coming into contact with the culprit, they attempted some form of resistance. And they had stakes in their forehead, chest, and stomach. Horrible, just like usual. Even though Ronov knew it would be superfluous, he contemplated telling Battler the truth. Normally, the witch would have killed them in a much more horrible way. The corpses had been left in this manner only because Bito had suggested to the witch that she show restraint. The new witch, thinking it would fit well enough as long as she gouged them with stakes, would probably have just stuck a stake into a lump of meat that wasn't even shaped like a human. Rosa's and Maria's corpses were a particularly striking example. If they'd been killed as the Golden Witch had wished, just how gruesome would the corpses have been? Bito had changed that into the still better kind of killing Battler had mentioned earlier. Wanting to have Bito's small bit of thoughtfulness appreciated, he thought about telling Battler about this. But judging by Battler's eyes, that might do more harm than good. To humans, the gap between being alive and being dead is very large. Saying that she'd given them better deaths might have made it possible for a demon to understand her feelings and pardon her, but there was no way a human would be so accepting. Understanding this, Ronov remained silent despite knowing of Bito's modest efforts. Just like usual, let's start by checking whether the corpses are dead. Ronov, please declare it in red. Hey, can't you hear me? Please declare it in red. Repeat it. Rudolph, Kirie, and Hideyoshi are dead. My apologies. Allow me to decline from repeating that. The hell? What are you planning all of a sudden? By now, proclaiming the victors were dead in red was almost a given in this battle. Refusing to do that was almost like losing by default. So when Ronov refused that as part of his move, Battler was dumbfounded. My apologies. As of this moment, I relinquish my position as Milady's representative. Accordingly, I cannot repeat that in red. The only one qualified to repeat that is Milady. His point is a valid one. Ronov is only a representative for Bito's side. If he steps down from that position, and if he will not accept Bito as an opponent, a new representative must be named. No new representative exists. Please, Battler-sama, please accept Milady as your game partner once more. Sorry, but that's advice I can't listen to. I definitely won't accept that unpleasant, cruel bastard as my opponent. My refusal to accept her is why I can't step down from this game. As to her being unpleasant, I apologize in Milady's stead. Allow me to pledge that Milady will not undertake such unpleasant actions again. I wonder about that. Adler-kun, I also want to apologize as that child's teacher. I'll give that child a good talking to, so please offer your forgiveness just this once. Hey, enough of that. You're making it sound like I'm the bad guy. And no matter how much you guys apologize, it won't reach my ears. If Bito could say that from her own lips, well, I might listen to her. Understood. If that is your only condition for acknowledging your opponent again, let us have that child apologize. Ronov, call for that child. Will that be alright, Battler-kun? Sheesh. Do whatever you want. Still, don't expect me to forgive her. Go get that irritating witch. You have my thanks, Battler-sama. I shall summon her here. Milady, Milady, Battler-sama is calling for you. After a few heartbeats, gold butterflies gathered together in midair and created Bito's form. It was a much more docile appearance than the one she'd made before. Did you call, Ronov? I believe you heard. Is there something you have to say from your own lips? It looked as though Bito shrunk slightly under Balor's cold gaze. Several times, Bito made an effort to get the words out of her mouth, but that didn't work so well, and she was just as awkward as someone trying to light a match during a freezing winter with icy hands. Even as she did that, the game board was advancing. In the hall, they had just found the corpses of the new victims and had broken down crying. Dad. Kirie-san. Ugh. Dear. Mother. Hang in there. Even for me, it's so crushing. So sad. They probably died instantly. I'm sure that even if we had arrived immediately after they fell, it would have been too late. No, that's wrong. They were definitely alive. His chest was stabbed with something like this. My husband must have died in extreme pain. If we had come faster, surely they would have been saved. It would definitely have been saved. It must be tough for you too, Balor-kun. Stay strong. I'm okay. It's okay, Aniki. Let me cry just a little bit longer. I've got it the best. I should be the least sad. So if you let me cry just a little longer, I'll be fine. That isn't true. I can understand how much it must hurt your heart to have lost both parents. I still have Mother. That's much better than what you've got going through, Balor-kun. No. That's wrong. It's gotta be toughest for you, George Aniki. I understand, Aniki. In this group, you're the saddest, and the one who has it the toughest. I understand that, so I can't keep on sobbing like this. Ugh. Why do you say it's toughest for me? To me, Dad and Kirie-san were people I'd eventually split up with when I grew up and became independent. Since they're parents, it was fated that they'd die before their kids. It just happened a little early, that's all. But it's different for you, Aniki. You didn't just lose your parents, who would have parted ways with you eventually. You also lost Shannon-chan, someone you should have spent the rest of your life with. You can't value human lives differently. Whether it's a baby or an old person, they should all be respected the same. But still, the more life that person has ahead of them, the longer the future you're building together is, the sadder the fact of their death is. Aniki, you were engaged to Shannon-chan, right? You promised that you'd build a life and go home together in the future, right? Compared to how huge that future was, compared to how huge that happiness was, stuff like my pain doesn't even come close. So you should be allowed to cry much, much more, Aniki. And yet, just because you act like a big brother to us cousins, you force yourself to act like you're so calm. Stop it, Balor-kun. George was trying to make a calm smile, but already he couldn't stop a single hot tear from leaving a streak down his face. There's no way I wouldn't be sad, right? Together with Shannon, I painted a picture of many futures in my mind. We talked of dreams that couldn't all come true even if we lived 100 years. Of those dreams, even the very first one, having her move into my family register, could not be granted, so there's no way I wouldn't be sad, right? Compared to that, like I said, I have no right to cry anymore. When even you're struggling to hold it in, I have no right to shed any more tears. We're the same. We both feel the same sadness from losing those close to us. So there's no rule that says you can't shed any more tears than me, Balor-kun. And for me too, there's no rule that says I have to hold back my tears any longer, is there? Aniki. Shannon, the one who shared my dreams for the future, is dead. Father's dead too. It's so sad. So sad. As Balor and George hugged each other tightly, they cried a waterfall of tears over each other's shoulders for the people who had been so precious to them. Do you understand why I said that to George Aniki has it the toughest? I was listening, so I understand. Your sadness is proportional to the length of time you would have been able to spend with that person afterwards. Of course, you can't calculate it just like that, though. We humans aren't like you witches. From the time we receive life to the moment we die, we live within that limited period as strongly as we can imagine. I can't forgive anyone who makes light of that, and I definitely can't forgive anyone who sneers at people and toys with them. A person like you, whose very concept of death is all screwed up, probably can't understand that. I'm not mad just because of the length of time they would have lived afterwards. It's sneering at the lives of people living with all they've got. That's why I can't forgive the most. George Aniki lived his life by recklessly doing his best. He must have approached this day with a grim resolve to marry Shannon-chan no matter the challenges. That's completely different from me, since I was happy to just be able to meet my cousins after a long while. But still... Bito, for now, stay silent and listen. Indeed. In a way, I understand your point. You say you need to continue murdering according to the epitaph for your own resurrection. So considering your circumstances, I can just barely bring myself to understand your murders. Because to you, it's a necessary course of action. But that means all unnecessary actions you take beyond that are due to your meaningless and brutal tastes. In other words, if killing the 6 people for the first Twilight was a necessary action for you, then all that show of crushing their faces and splitting their stomachs and stuffing them full of sweets was completely unnecessary, and caused by nothing more than your brutal hobby. That's an aspect of you that I definitely cannot forgive. Indeed. When you saw Aunt Rosa getting repeatedly killed in that horrible way, you apparently said something like, if they're going to be brought back to life at the end anyway, it doesn't matter how they're killed. I heard from Virgilia. Well, as to that, well, that idea that you can kill them as many times as you want, as long as you bring them back to life in the end, isn't that a completely unnecessary action with no purpose other than to toy around with someone's life? If you're going to kill, do it instantly. Don't toy with them. If you won't kill them, then don't bully them. You're taking advantage of the fact that you can do as you will with people's lives and you've forgotten the sanctity of life. So I can't accept or acknowledge you. I definitely can't accept as my opponent a person who doesn't know the value of a life, or the sadness felt when lives are lost. That is why the Endless Magic is known as a black art. The Endless Witch has no concept of limitations. She has no concept of the limitations and losses caused by breaking and killing. For that reason, Endless Witches sometimes start playing by jumping over the gap between life and death, like it's a game. That is a very, very frightening thing. So as an Endless Witch, and by my own choosing, I never reached your level. It was something Virgilia had been trying to tell Bito for a long time. But Bito had been too young to obediently listen to those words. She had been too wild. She had been possessed by that detestable pleasure. I had been told not to break vases, but that's why I want to break them. Then I gained the Endless Magic. When I knew that I could fix them back to normal no matter how badly I broke them, I was surprised how fun it could be to break a vase. That is what's known as the Forbidden Honey. People are not captivated by what's inside. They are captivated by the sealed lock. It is truly regrettable. I want to ask you, Virgilia, why does this thing called the Endless Magic exist? For what purpose does it exist in this world? It is not limited to the Endless Magic. All magic exists to bring happiness to the human world. After everything that has happened, it may be difficult for you to believe, Battler-kun, but in order to bring blessings to the human world, we witches are supposed to become bridges between humans and non-humans, and that is why we train so hard. How does reviving the dead and torturing them to death over and over again help the human world? When a vase that was important memento is broken, if by fixing it everyone will regain their smiles, I would repair it with magic as many times as necessary. However, I would not be fixing it in order to break it again. I would be reviving it to give humans happiness. In that case, Bito, you fail as an Endless Witch. Indeed. There's this thing I've been vaguely thinking about. Why do I keep playing this strange game against you? Maybe this game isn't about making me surrender. Maybe it's a test for you to be accepted as an Endless Witch in the truest sense. I don't know about that. The reason I proposed this game to you was simply a way to kill time. There was no ulterior motives at work. Just now, I heard the definition of a witch from Virgilia. By that definition, you, Bito, are not even a witch. You're an apprentice who's still in training, and who misunderstands her own power. This was supposed to be a fight between a witch and a human. If you aren't a witch, then you aren't qualified to be my opponent. Understand? You say I am still only an apprentice. Then when will I be accepted as your opponent once again? When can we resume this game? Who knows? At the very least, it isn't now. When you fully understand what I said and become a real witch, I'll probably accept you as my opponent in this game once more. I can't understand if you say it so abstractly like that. Clearly tell me what I need to do to earn your forgiveness. No, I've said enough. You think about the rest. That's all I want to say. If you can't figure it out, try talking with Virgilia and Ronov. A brat like you should start off by listening to what the adults say. Virgilia, suspend the game for now. Now that Ronov has stepped down as a representative, all we can do is wait for Bito to gain the qualifications of a proper opponent. Understood. Until Bito has been acknowledged as having earned those qualifications, the game will proceed without an opponent. Is that alright with you too, Bito? I have no objections. I want time, and a place where I can think at a leisurely pace. May I leave my seat for that? Yeah, that's fine. Well then, see you later. Wait, don't make that dejected face. Sorry about that. Letting everything inside my heart show upon my face is part of my personality. I cannot deceive. Then maybe there's still some hope for you. Let me promise you one thing. In this game with you, I might win, and I might lose. If you don't come back, it might be my victory by default. At that point, Badler stopped talking for a second. Then he spoke forcefully. However, I definitely won't be the one to step down. I definitely won't give you a victory by default. I'll keep on waiting here for you to sit there again as my worthy opponent. Badler-sama. Thank you, Badler. I'll definitely come back and be accepted by you. After showing a hopeful smile for a very short while, Bito vanished. After seeing her expression as she left, Badler was absolutely convinced that her face could tell no lies. Seven survivors returned to the guest house once more. By now, it was clear that those who went outside would not return alive. Rudolph's group had gone out with 2 guns and a master key, but those had been lost. It was already clear that those had been stolen by the culprit. Because the shutters were closed on the windows, they couldn't be opened even if the culprit had a master key. The front and back doors that had led to the outside were all sealed by chains, and they were further blocked with sofas and tables. Even if the culprit decided to break in through violent means, it wouldn't be easy for them. At this point, the typhoon might actually be fortunate. If it were clear outside, it might have been possible for them to set fire to the guest house. If there wasn't a typhoon in the first place, the boat would have arrived before noon. That's not much of a silver lining. Ava-san, how do you feel? Please try to take it easy. Thank you. I still feel like I have a fever, but there's no time to complain about that. For the children's sake as well, there's no time to be bedridden. After crying so much in front of Hideyoshi's corpse, Ava had felt a strong self-awareness of her position as a mother, and her expression conveyed a strong will. In actual fact, her fever still hadn't gone down, and she was aware of that. If she didn't keep a strong hold on herself, she felt as though the fever would make her mind hazy again. By this point, the first floor formed a final line of defense set up by Kraus, Natsui, and Ava. The children and the guest Nanjo had been strongly warned not to go downstairs without taking great care. If the culprit used a ladder or something, it probably wouldn't be impossible for them to attack from the second floor. But it wouldn't be easy for them to break through those sturdy shutters from such an insecure position. The second floor was relatively safe compared to the first. Adler and George had also wanted to remain on the first floor so they could fight if the worst had happened, but Ava had put a stop to that. In her mind, George was now the only member of her family. It seemed that she didn't even want to expose him to the danger of coming downstairs to the first floor. Kraus and Natsui could understand that feeling. Also, a great deal of time had passed since the siege began. In the second floor cousins' room, Badler, George, and Jessica sat dazed, and didn't even listen to the TV that had been left on. For a while, Nanjo had been there with them and had tried to lend them words of encouragement. When he realized that he might actually be having the opposite effect, he hid himself in his own room, on the same second floor. George kept looking dazedly at the photographs inserted in his notebook. It was from the time he'd taken a vacation to Okinawa with Shannon. Shannon's happy smile was contained in those photos. George could remember the temperature and the humidity, the warmth and strength of the wind, and even what he had been talking about with her at the time those photos had been taken, as clearly as though it had been yesterday. So to George, they weren't simply photos, but a door to bring back warm memories. In this room, even though the sound of the typhoon and the TV should have entered George's hearing, it was the scenery of Okinawa he had seen with her, and her laughing voice that reached his eyes and ears. George had strived to be reborn after meeting Shannon. He had sworn to separate himself from the timid person he had once been, easily caught up in the atmosphere, unable to refuse a request, and easily used by those around him. He had resolved himself to become a strong man who could make her life more joyous. Therefore, if he hadn't met Shannon, the man called Ushimiya George would probably have lived a very different life. And the George of that different life surely wouldn't have been as excellent a man as he is now. The person I am now exists for Shannon's sake. Now that Shannon is gone, why do I exist? It's completely meaningless, isn't it? He felt a deep, deep sadness as though he himself had become empty. That feeling must have been tormenting him this whole time. However, until Badler mentioned it, he hadn't been aware of feeling himself. He finally managed to remember that it should all have been right for him to cry much, much more. So he cried. Just as Badler had, he cried for himself dry. By now his eyes were bright red and swollen and he couldn't cry anymore. So George did his best to change his way of thinking. He was not meaningless now, and he should be grateful to Shannon for giving him such a character. The dead don't come back to life. He would have to get over being separated from his most beloved person. If he were to chase after Shannon and kill himself, she would surely be deeply dejected. It worked the other way around too. If he had died and Shannon had chased after him, throwing away her own life, he wouldn't have been able to forgive himself. So he chose to surpass his sadness and anger, and decide to thank her instead. After meeting Shannon, she had made his days rich and full, and taught him the meaning of working hard for other people's sakes. As a result, she had shaped him into the kind of person he had wanted to be. He wanted to thank her for that. He tried to quell his sadness in this way, but each time he did, he remembered Shannon's smile. He understood it logically. He knew that grieving any more than this would only make her grieve in heaven. That didn't bring a stop to his sadness. Right? The music is so good. Why is it that when people die, it's so sad like this? Adler muttered. It was as though he was speaking on behalf of all humans. His question probably hadn't been directed at anyone, but Jessica answered. It's always sad when you have to say goodbye. But when the person's old or there's some time, when you know beforehand that it's coming, sooner or later that sadness gets spread out over a long period of time. When misfortune comes suddenly, it's sad because you don't even get that time. I see. So if they get sick or something and end up bedridden in hospital, you might be able to ready yourself for it bit by bit. When it happens suddenly, someday, you don't get that luxury. The sadness that's usually spread over several years closes in on you all at once. That's pretty tough. Sometimes it makes you feel a sadness so deep it can leave scars for life. Scars for life, huh? the grandfather's occult hobby. People say that's what caused it. That Beatrice, his mistress, died a long time ago and he was so sad he couldn't pull himself together. Some people whisper that this is why he started sacrificing the rest of his life to occult research in order to revive the dead. If that's true, grandfather succeeded in that miracle in his last moments. The culprit is the revived Beatrice, and grandfather was reunited with her at the moment he was killed. Pretty ironic that he revived her and then got killed by her. Even so, grandfather probably managed to meet her. He gambled half of his life, and even though it was only for a short time, he was reunited with a woman he wished to see once again. And he got totally roasted though. Feels like that result doesn't quite add up to the cost of researching for half his life. That's not true. Even if it was only for an instant, grandfather must have been happy to be reunited with a woman he loved. And that would be true, even if his crime of going against the divine providence was punished by God, and his body was burnt and sent down to hell. Even if that reunion only lasted a few short time, right? George Nissan. I wouldn't care I met with the wrath of God and had my body burned. Even if it's just for a short amount of time, if I could revive Shannon again, I would sacrifice the rest of my life to the same research as grandfather. I want to talk with Shannon again, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Even 1 minute would be fine. In exchange, I wouldn't mind sacrificing the rest of my life. Aniki. When Ballard and Jessica realized that their pointless discussion was causing George pain, they could do nothing more than shut their mouths. George directed his thoughts to Kinzo's life. He sacrificed half his life to research that no one understood. And on the last day of his life, he revived the person he loved most, and probably succeeded in his reunion in his final moments. George didn't know how much time they'd had together. He didn't know if they'd been given an hour or just 5 minutes. However, that moment must have been enough to reward him for all those months of research. Even though he spent dozens of years to achieve it, that small amount of time was probably more than worth it to him. Until today, I never believed in the occult or magic or anything. Somewhere in my heart, I even made fun of grandfather's research, thinking of it as nothing more than a pastime. However, I won't make fun of it anymore. No, to the contrary, I believe it strongly that it's real. If the power of belief can create miracles, I'll probably throw away all my studies up until today, spending the rest of my life from today onwards studying magic. Give me the power of magic, and give me a miracle to let me see Shannon again. Huh. Sorry, you two. What am I talking about? If you could revive the dead with magic, people would probably be researching it everywhere around the world. But things like that don't exist in reality. No one researches it. That's because they know the dead can't be revived with magic. Sorry for saying something so weird. It's my fault that the atmosphere has gotten so strange. Sorry for making you tiptoe around me, even though this is tough for us all. Even if I did it to divert myself from my sadness, maybe I did say something strange. If I keep talking about stuff that's so weird, I'm sure it won't do anything good for their sadness. But that doesn't mean I can bear this silence. I'll go downstairs and get another cup of coffee. Mom's very particular about how she likes hers. Does anyone else want a refill? Adlerkin and Jessica-chan lightly shook their heads. Without pressing them any further, I took my mug and left the room. The shutters were all closed in the hallway, so the corridor was very dim. I tried visiting Dr. Nanja's room and asking if he wanted more coffee, but he said he didn't need any either. It seems my mother's orthodox method of making coffee isn't universally appreciated. One time I made some for Shannon, but she told me that while it was delicious, it was a little strong. Shannon. That's no good. Even though I left the room to change my mood, that image of Shannon's face filling my head hasn't faded in the slightest. I keep seeing those fun days with her more and more vividly, and it's saddening that I never got a chance to see her dead face. According to our parents, she was apparently killed with something like a gun or a spear. I'm sure they were just trying to console me, but they had said that her dead face had been very beautiful and peaceful. I wonder if she had the engagement ring I gave her last night on her finger. If she accepted my engagement, she should have had it on her ring finger of her left hand. Last night we were both on the edge of losing it and not calm at all. Shannon accepted my engagement pretty courageously, but she might have regretted it as a rash action once she cooled her head. She might have taken the ring off. I wonder if she has the ring on now. want to be sure of at least that much. I want to know how she felt at the very end. But even if I do confirm that, doesn't mean she'll come back. I wonder what will happen to her body. After the autopsy, it'll probably be immediately cremated. Then I'll never be able to see her face, even her dead face, for all eternity. Has the shock of losing Shannon made me go a little crazy? I don't want her body to be burned. If she's burned and turned to ash, never again will it be possible for her to revive. They say cremation is frowned upon in Western tradition, because on the day of resurrection there will be no body to revive. Because of that, it seems that great criminals in Western history were often cremated after execution as punishment, and their ashes were sometimes scattered in rivers and such. In other words, to Western people, death is nothing more than a sleep until the resurrection. It is essential that the corpse is left after death. In other words, that's because Western people knew of a miracle that could revive the dead. But because that miracle doesn't exist in Japan, we burn them. Now I understand. I understand why grandfather idolized the Western occult. That was his only reason from the very beginning. Just to revive the person dear to him, grandfather spent the rest of his remaining life researching the Western occult. The situation surrounding us now is abnormal. Grandfather did revive his beloved Beatrice, and that Beatrice has carried out a terrible serial murder, with linked closed rooms that force us to conclude that magic was used. The Golden Witch Beatrice, the incarnation of the miracle of the Western occult, and also the culprit who killed Shannon. She's an entity I should hate, and yet for some reason I want to cling to her. I wonder if Shannon could be revived with the magic of miracles, which grandfather bet his life on. According to the legend of the Ushimiya family, grandfather met with her long ago and was given a vast quantity of gold. Then, if I also met with her, instead of gold, would she give me Shannon's life? As collateral, I don't care what sort of devil's contract she imposed. I wouldn't mind sacrificing all of my remaining life. George probably couldn't believe or realize that his voiceless witch was heard by the witch herself, who stood right next to him. Beatrice had been listening to that entire discussion between the children just now in the cousin's room. Badler had told her that she didn't know the value of a human's life, and wanting to understand that in her own way, she had stealthily visited, listening in on their discussion. That is your wish, you say. If I can grant that, would I be accepted as a witch? Ito looked at the palms of both her hands. She had handed over most of her once surging magical power when the new witch succeeded the name of the Endless Witch. Of course, her current power still made her worthy of being called a witch, but it could not begin to compare to her previous strength. Even without the endless magic, I am a great witch whose name has been thundered for 1,000 years. Reviving the dead would be no trouble at all. Inside her head, she thought about several magical steps she could take to revive the dead. Even magic that should have been easy in the past would be difficult with her current power. She thought of something, then clicked her tongue, and then did so again over and over. In the end, she finally thought of a single spell. But that was a spell that she couldn't use by herself. It was a spell that witches with weak power used, one that relied on the aid of others. In the past, Mito had looked down upon that type of magic. Therefore, she frantically tried to search for any conceivable alternative. But in the end, she couldn't think of one and slumped over in self-derision. Then, careful not to surprise him, she softly called out. Softly, to George's heart. Ushimiya George, can you hear my voice? I can hear you. Who are you? Are you really the witch, Beatrice? Or are you an illusion created by my sorrow? If it's the former, please hear my wish. And if it's the latter, just leave me alone. Their conversation in a mental world was a lot like having one in a dream. When you dream, haven't you ever had that experience of casually accepting something that would have been absurd in the real world? The conversation in this world was like that. So even though a witch had appeared and started talking to George, he was not surprised. Indeed, I am the Golden Witch, Beatrice, Normally you and I would not be able to talk together in this manner. However, you are strongly conscious of me and wish to have a discussion, so both of our channels are able to match like this. I don't care if the person who killed Shannon was you, or someone else using your name. As long as you exist as a real witch, I'll pay whatever cost you ask for. If you desire my life, take it right now. Please, I want you to bring Shannon back to life. If that's impossible, I'd be satisfied if you just let me talk to her for a short while. Please. I ask for nothing in return. I shall grant that wish. Hey Jason, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. Really? Really? You'll revive Shannon? Indeed. However, my current magical power is not sufficient to use the magic of resurrection. Therefore, I must rely on your help. If there's anything I can do, I'll do it. Even if that means taking my heart out right here and now, I will not hesitate. I told you, I don't need anything like that. I will chant the magic. Then a gap will open in the door to the land of the dead. But as I am now, I do not have the power to bring Shannon's soul up through that gap. However, you have strong feelings for Shannon, and those feelings will surely become magic that could bring her soul out without fail. What do you say? Will you help me? I will. If Shannon's life will be restored, there's nothing I'm afraid to lose. George's fist shook in silence. Then he slowly came to his senses. He had been absent-mindedly standing near the window in the hall that whole time, his mug still in his hand. And the witch from his dream was still there. What the? It isn't a dream. Be quiet. I am very fragile now. If any more humans appear, I may not be able to preserve this form. I shall grant your wish, so stay silent for now. Understand? George covered his mouth with both hands, nodding enthusiastically several times. In that instant, he almost dropped the mug he was holding. George frantically juggled it around and caught it. He was afraid that if it fell to the floor and made a loud sound, the witch's form might disappear like a bubble popping. He softly set the mug on the floor and stared at the witch in front of him again. His form didn't disappear. It wasn't, or her form didn't disappear. It wasn't a dream. Come, let's go to the parlor where Shannon sleeps. With the power of your feelings, we will bring back her soul. You say go, but how? My mother and the rest are downstairs. There's no way they'd let us go outside. And didn't you just say that you wouldn't be able to preserve your form if another human appeared? Come to think of it, that is true. So Kraus and the rest are downstairs. In that case, we definitely cannot go down. Well then, we just need to go to the mansion without going down to the first floor, right? It's simple. Ito laughed as though she had the thought of a pleasant prank. And with her golden pipe, she lightly tapped the window with its shutter closed. When she did, 3 gold butterflies appeared from the pipe and opened the lock on the window as though melting it. Then the window opened without a sound. The shutter beyond it was exactly the same. It clasped, unset itself, also without making a sound, and it quietly opened. The window opened, exposing the wind and rain outside the mansion. Perhaps because of the direction or something related to the construction of the building, the wind did not blow inside. Because of that, for a while, George felt as though this entrance that opened to the outside was a dream, or an illusion, and he couldn't accept it as real. Come, let us go. Come with me. Ito gently floated upwards. It was a natural action like that of a diver enjoying an underwater stroll. It made it easy to believe that if you acted like she did, you too might be able to float in the sky just as though you were swimming through the water. No, George did believe that. So without thinking, just as she had done, he also, gently, as though swimming in the water, lifted his feet. Huh. Not bad. So you learned how to dance in the sky faster than I could explain it. George was shocked to find himself floating in midair like he was swimming. Of course, Bito was also shocked that George, You shouldn't have been able to use magic. I figured out how to do that just by instinct. To be able to fly in the air, to swim in the air, you mustn't be bound by reason. Accept it as a natural thing. You mustn't fall back to your human doctrines, such as those of Newton and Einstein. Especially when flying high in the sky. Inexperienced witches sometimes plummet to the earth. I accept things for what they appear to be. I accept things for what they appear to be. George repeated those words over and over. He must not deny magic, no matter what. Denying that would be like throwing away what might be his first and last chance to revive Shannon. However, compared to Bito, who was elegantly drifting like smoke, George's movements clearly resembled someone underwater. Therefore, if he didn't act like he was kicking his feet in water every once in a while, he'd be caught by the force of gravity bit by bit. I must say you're doing better than when I first danced through the sky. Here we go. Come with me. When Bito beckoned to George, she gently flew into the stormy sky. It was just like a scene from a fairy tale. The scene unfolding before George's eyes felt entirely like an extension of his dream. Being able to fly is incredible. So is the wind and the rain. What's this? Are the wind and rain tormenting you? I could teach you magic to block against that, but it may be too early for you, and it might be a misuse of time right now. Yes. Magic I need isn't that. George wore a strong-willed gaze, refusing to let the wind and rain get to him. The mansion is coming into sight. Hold on just a little longer. If you fall now, you'll hit the bushes in the rose garden. The undulating rose garden was spread beneath the witch and George's gazes. This illusion-like scene was no longer surprised George. Hey, Forte! Welcome to stream. Thanks so much for coming by. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Hope you're having a great day. Only the gradually approaching mansion was reflected in his eyes. Shannon, wait for me. I'll definitely revive you. At that time, the cruel new witch could be seen staring at the guest house from a different location. Now, all that's left is the 7th and 8th twilights. Just 2 more, and my obligation to that old hag predecessor is finished. I'll kill Kraus and Natsui. Let them die together like the good couple they are. Where's the target, yeah? In the lobby on the first floor of the guest house, 2 targets and Ushime Eva identified. Measuring anti-magic power levels. Data link to 410. 410 data received. Anti-magic power levels are extremely low. If Ava just goes outside, they're tuned to an abalone on a chopping board. What do you think, Great Lady Beatrice? When you gave that order, you was snipe right away. Please, your orders. You guys are really convenient furniture. Not at all like that old second-hand furniture that's only useful for gouging corpses. Right? Chester sisters, please show me your skill once more. Prepare to fire. And carry out the corpses again, got it? Because I'll play with them a lot. No complaints from you, right, Ronov? Correct. As you command. At that moment, the witch noticed something. It was as though some presence had disappeared. Was it her imagination? Was that someone's presence just now? Did anyone feel it? My apologies, I haven't noticed anything, so please forgive me. We are in the middle of observing the guest house, so peripheral surveillance was set to off. What about you, Lucifer-chan? Did you feel any presence? For just an instant, Lucifer glanced at Ronov, asking whether she should answer honestly or not. Ronov gave a small nod in response. No. My apologies, Beatrice-sama. We noticed nothing. Forgive us the stupidity of us second-hand furniture. I see. If a great demon like you says that, then it must have been my imagination. The witch persistently stared in the direction the presence had disappeared to. That was where the rose garden lay, and beyond that she could see the mansion's dark silhouette created by lightning. It took quite some time before she pushed her unsatisfied feelings aside, and once again faced the guest house. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of this episode. I'm pretty sure... Just gonna double check. I think... I estimate... Yeah, I estimate that we have about 3 hours left of this episode until we get to the ending. Plus the tea party, which I'm guessing is an extra hour. Let's just see here. Yeah, I think this is a good stopping point for today, because if we keep going, or if we stop here, the next stream is going to be approximately the same length as this one. That way I can kind of keep the episodes around the same length. So it's a little bit shorter today, but we did cover a lot. I think it's really interesting, of course, we're seeing this dynamic between Badler and Beatrice's character growth and development, which is something we didn't really expect to see coming into this from Chapter 2, or from Episode 2. And on top of that, we got to see a little bit more of Kiria and Rudolph fight back against the magic, which was actually really cool. Again, I wasn't really expecting this the first time I came across this scene, because you might expect it from, like, you know, Canon and Shannon and some of the younger characters, because, you know, they're young and protagonists, but to see it from the adults who usually just kind of roll over and die in most of these scenes is kind of neat to see, especially with, like, the explanation, I think, behind why Kiria was able to overpower Leviathan. Like, makes completely logical sense in a strange way, and I really liked it. And I think Ava Beatrice is also a very interesting character, and we're seeing more of her as well. So this whole dynamic between the characters, especially since we've seen a lot of new ones that are introduced just today, is really adding more to it. As you can see, we go through these episodes, they add more and more characters, often through the use of the magical side of things, but we'll see different uses later on, because of course this is only episode 3 out of 8. So even though I would say that at the end of episode 4 feels like more of a conclusion, we're kind of getting close to like that near climax with the end of episode 3, which is really exciting. I'm just gonna hit the save button before I forget. So as you can see, there's very few people left alive. We still have Kraus, Natsui, Jessica, Nanjo, Ava, George, and Badler, and of course, Beatrice. And then now, we have, on the magic side, they've added the Chester sisters. So we have Chester 45, and 410. It's kind of interesting, in Golden Fantasia, which is the Umineko fighting game, which I will be playing when we finish all 8 episodes, because there are some minor spoilers there. Like, they pick a bunch of characters to be playable, like, obviously Badler and Beatrice, but they also want representatives from some of the more minor magical figures. So for, like, the Seven Sisters of Purgatory, they pick Lucifer, because she's the oldest sister and seems to have the most speaking roles. And then for the Chester sisters, because there's only 2 of them, they pick 410 instead of 45, because I think 410 has a bit more personality than 45. 45 seems very, like, submissive and worried, while 410, like, she, like, kind of speaks with this, like, cute rabbity sounding accent. You can hear it a lot stronger when she's actually voice acted in the anime and the modded version of this visual novel as well. So I can kind of understand why they picked 410 instead of 45 to be playable, because they probably wanted a representative from the the Chester sisters as well, but we've been introduced to them, which is kind of neat as well. Okay, but again, I think that's a good place to end for today. Now, because Fire Emblem Engage comes out this Friday, I want to get right into playing it, and that means I want to continue playing it for a couple days, which means we won't be doing Umineko this Saturday, so to make up for it, I'm going to actually do another Umineko stream tomorrow, and we're going to pick up from here, and we'll probably finish episode 3. Whether we get to the tea party, or whether we finish the tea party or not, I guess will depend on time. I would like to finish it, because it'd be nice to just end it off and wrap it up, and then move on to Fire Emblem, and then go back and start up with episode 4, just to have it, like, all neatly tucked together. So I'll probably upload Fire Emblem on YouTube first, and then I'll upload Umineko episode 3 all in order, just so they all stay together. We'll see. We'll see. my voice is so powerful you fell asleep. Hey, welcome back, Psycho Reaper. Yeah, thank you so much for coming, guys. Psycho Reaper, Forte, Comfy Dreams. Always a pleasure. It's always fun to read Umineko. Even though, you know, I might say for once in a while it's a little bit tiring to read out loud for so long in a row without many breaks, but I honestly really enjoy it, and like we're getting to like the good part of the story too. Like during episode 1 and episode 2 there were a lot of like slow parts, but I feel like episode 3 and onwards it gets to a lot more like quicker action. Especially episode 5 and onward, it gets really good, so I'm glad to be able to share this with other people, because again, it's a series that I'm very passionate about because it's so interesting, but I also don't have many people that I can talk to about it, so it's just kind of nice to share it and make it more known to more people. Okay, let's have a look at Twitch, see who is streaming at this hour. Ooh, a bunch of people are streaming. Who should we raid today? Oh, you know what? We haven't raided Kite in a long time. So let's go check up on him. Alright. I'll see you guys next time. Stick around tomorrow for more Umineko, and then Friday for Fire Emblem. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.